Chapter 587, Qingping 1. Heaven's startling hammer strike, die. Remember not to provoke my young master in your next life. When Heaven Demon Monarch saw that it was about time, he circulated his demonic powers and unleashed his peak second firmament strength to the limit. The Heaven's startling hammer in his hand smashed down. Immediately, a shocking hammer shadow smashed down from the sky, as if the divine might of the 9 heavens had descended. In front of the shocking hammer shadow, the first sky of the martial Saint Realm old man was pitifully small. His eyes were filled with destruction. Spirit profound avatar. When the old man saw the shocking hammer shadow, he was shocked to death. He no longer held back and used his most powerful secret technique. However, after using this secret technique, his cultivation would drop by 3 realms. The first sky of the martial Saint Realm had dropped by 3 realms. He was now only at the 8th sky of the martial Emperor Realm. However, in the current situation, it was definitely 10,000 times more powerful to fall than to die immediately. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the shocking hammer smashed down. A shadow disappeared. The old man's body was destroyed by the hammer, but the shadow came 10 meters away. One strike had destroyed the first sky of the martial Saint Realm. Although the first sky of the martial Saint Realm old man had used the doppelganger secret skill to escape the destructive strike, his real body was finished. Realizing that he had escaped, the old man revealed a trace of joy on his face. The illusory figure was about to flash and escape. However, he suddenly realized that there was a strange flame on his body, and this flame was cold. Ice flame. The old man's phantom was a clone, which was also a soul. As long as it escaped, it could be possessed and reborn. However, when he realized that the ice flames on his body were ice flames, he immediately cried out in surprise. Following that, the old man's soul continued to wail in agony. The wail reverberated throughout the world, but stopped abruptly with a flick of Li Lingtian's finger. The icy blaze floated in the air before returning to the Heavenly Demon King's heaven-shocking hammer. Hee 1 minute isn't up yet, is it? The Heavenly Demon King chuckled as he looked at the martial emperor's corpse on the ground. He grabbed at the air with one hand and collected some weapons and storage pouches. This was something he learned from Li Lingtian. Not even a minute. However, your last attack was also the power of the young master's ice flame. If not for the ice flame, you would have to spend a little more effort. Martial Saint Ming Luo smiled as well. Finally, she handed the storage pouch to Li Lingtian respectfully. The identities of these martial artists were different, so the storage bags in their hands were naturally different, so they did not dare to have the slightest thought. As a matter of fact, they were not lacking in cultivation resources, elixirs, treasures, cultivation techniques, and everything else they needed when they were with Li Lingtian. Naturally, they did not need any storage pouches or wealth. Not bad. Your cultivation is already very good. However, you have to master more techniques. If your techniques improve, you can raise your true strength to a higher level. Li Lingtian took a glance at the Heavenly Monster King and nodded in satisfaction. However, he did say a few more words about his cultivation base. The Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Ming Luo listened attentively. They did not belittle Li Lingtian's mere martial emperor, as they had benefited from him. Li Lingtian was only a martial supreme before he fell from his state. However, his knowledge was something that they would never be able to achieve because Li Lingtian cultivated the canon. Some cultivation techniques and skills had their own unique introductions. It was their greatest wish to be able to hear Li Lingtian's advice, and they were not willing to miss it. Thank you for your guidance, young master. The two of them bowed respectfully. Finally, the two of them cleaned up the battlefield, and the group quickly flew towards the county city. Xianyuan Yingying had just returned to the mansion when she saw a sly smile on her face. She looked at Li Lingtian with her beautiful eyes before her gaze landed on Qingping. Qingping, I think you lost at the auction. We agreed that if you lost, you had to promise the other party one thing. You won't go back on your word, right? Xianyuan Yingying smiled as she spoke. Li Lingtian did not know what he was up to when he saw her expression. However, he did not know and could only look at her. Miss Yingying, just say it. Qingping will definitely not go back on her words. Qingping answered hurriedly. With Xianyuan Yingying's identity, she would not object or reject her request even if they did not make a bet. All right, I'll go back to sleep first. Tonight, you accompany Big Brother Ling Tian and serve Big Brother Ling Tian. I will tell Meng Meng. After Xianyuan Yingying finished speaking, she jogged into the mansion. Her petite and exquisite back view was extremely beautiful. Li Lingtian's heart was burning with passion as he watched, but he quickly suppressed it. He could not mess around with his wives. However, he immediately realized what Xianyuan Yingying had said. She actually asked Qingping to serve him. This girl was really sly. Although Huangfu Yuyan and the others had told her about it, she could tell something. At this moment, Qingping was stunned. She didn't expect Xianyuan Yingying to say such a thing. Her little face was flushed red as she lowered her head, afraid to look at Li Lingtian. Her little hands were twisting her clothes, looking extremely adorable. Although she wanted to serve Li Lingtian, she did not have the opportunity nor the right to do so. Now that Xianyuan Yingying said it out loud, how could she not feel embarrassed? Young master. Qingping sensed that Li Lingtian was silent and thought that he was angry. She called out timidly. After that, she didn't know what to say, and the atmosphere became even more awkward. Let's go. I'll send you back. Li Lingtian felt troubled when he saw Qingping's expression. Qingping had been with Meng Meng since they were young. He and Meng Meng were engaged since they were young, and they grew up together. It could also be said that Tang Ziming, Tang Qingyue, Lu Min, Qingping, Xiao Xiao, and him were all the same age and had played together since they were young. Although they had a master-servant relationship, when they were together, there was no master-servant relationship at all. They were all the same. They had been together for the past few years, but they had never thought that things would turn out like this. A woman would change when she grew up, and even her thoughts had changed. The maid who used to follow behind him had now become a beautiful girl. Yes. Qingping nodded. She felt relieved, but she was more disappointed and disappointed. Young master was so powerful and domineering outside. Now that he could speak to her so gently, he was already extremely satisfied. Young master, Qingping will serve you. After walking for a while, the two of them arrived at the deepest part of the mansion, which was also where they lived. Qingping did not want to continue like this. If she did not seize this good opportunity, she would never be able to find such an opportunity again in the future. Although she didn't want to become young master's wife, it was a happy thing to be young master's woman. His voice was even softer than a mosquito's. If not for Li Lingtian's profound cultivation base, no one would have been able to hear him. As she spoke, she kept her head lowered and her little hands were twisting on her clothes. She looked extremely nervous and Li Lingtian's heart was moved. Let's go. Needless to say, Li Lingtian knew that the maids were destined to follow him for life. It was impossible for him to ignore them. If a maid followed him and did not touch them for the rest of her life, she would be like the maids in the palace, never getting the favor of a man. He wouldn't be so cruel. If he didn't want such a beautiful girl, he would be a fool. Moreover, Qingping and the others had grown up with him, so their relationship was naturally deep. As he spoke, he held Qingping's hand and walked forward. Qingping's mind was filled with terror as she involuntarily followed Li Lingtian. Deep down, she was extremely afraid of Li Lingtian's rejection and his accusation that she was shameless. Naturally, it was difficult for a girl to say that. If they were not accepted, they would not have any face in the future. Moreover, they were afraid that Li Lingtian would ignore them after he got angry. She didn't expect her young master to agree and even hold her hand gently. Soon, they arrived at Qingping's room. Qingping entered the room and turned on the light. Qingping's small face was red and she looked extremely shy. For a moment, he did not know what to say or do. However, Li Lingtian was also present when she served Tang Ziming these days. She had also seen Tang Ziming serving Li Lingtian. In the past, she had fantasized countless times about how to serve Li Lingtian, but now, she could not even control her fingers. Her mind was blank. Li Lingtian looked at Qingping's bashful expression and his heart thumped. Just like that, He admired this beautiful young girl's shy appearance. He sat on the chair with a faint smile in his eyes. Young master. Qingping was even more shy when Li Lingtian stared at her. After a while, she realized that Li Lingtian was teasing her. She could not be bothered with her shyness anymore as she gently walked to Li Lingtian's side. You don't regret it? Li Lingtian's eyes were extremely serious at this moment. He didn't want to go against a girl's wishes. Although this Qingping was beautiful, if she didn't want to, he definitely wouldn't touch her. Because he had many girls around him, he naturally wouldn't provoke Qingping. No regrets. Because Qingping is Mrs. Maid and also young master's man. Qingping likes young master, so young master, please love me. Qingping raised her head at this moment. Her beautiful eyes were like water as she looked at Li Lingtian. Her eyes were filled with shyness and seduction. After mustering up his courage, he no longer had any scruples and said what was in his heart. Li Lingtian did not expect Qingping to have such a side to her. He was overjoyed. The girls around him were either gentle, lively, delicate, quiet, generous, or strong. However, they all had one characteristic, which was that they would speak up boldly at the critical moment. In front of him, no matter what her personality was, she was always a gentle little woman. She was his wife. This Qingping was the same. Although she had a girl's nature and shyness, she still mustered up the courage to face it at the critical moment. Chapter 588, Cultivation Recovery 1. When Li Lingtian woke up the next day, Qingping was also awake. Qingping realized her current state and thought of what happened last night. Her face turned red, but her heart was filled with sweetness. She leaned on Li Lingtian's arm shyly, not daring to move or look up at him. Li Lingtian looked at Qingping's expression and smiled faintly. Sleep for a while longer. I'll get up and cultivate first. Li Lingtian said softly as he pinched Qingping's little face. After saying that, he prepared to get up. Young master, Qingping will help you put on your clothes. Qingping felt even more blissful when she felt Li Lingtian's love for her. Even if this was the only time in her life, she would be satisfied. Knowing that Li Lingtian was about to get up to cultivate, he quickly spoke. If she fell asleep, this maid would be too unqualified. Hurry up and get up. However, as soon as she moved, her little face revealed a trace of pain and shyness. Aya? Qingping moved and groaned.
Don't move.
It's always like this for the first time.
Go to sleep first.
Naturally, Li Lingtian knew what was wrong with Qingping. He reached out and pressed her down on the bed before he put on his clothes. With a smile on her face, Qingping became even more shy when she saw Li Lingtian smile. However, she still obediently slept on the bed and watched Li Lingtian's back disappear from the room. Li Lingtian gently closed the door behind him when he left. Even though this action was insignificant, it was a sign of happiness in Qingping's eyes. As soon as he came out, he saw Xianyuan Ying. There was still a smile on her little face. Li Lingtian found this smile rather odd, no matter how he looked at it. Big brother Lingtian, how was last night? Xianyuan Ying smiled as she approached Li Lingtian and sniffed him with her round nose. Finally, she asked with a crafty look on her face. Are you a puppy's? What do you mean? Li Lingtian did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Xianyuan Ying's expression. This little girl was so beautiful, but she looked like a little devil. Beautiful, absolutely unparalleled, stunning the world. However, this little girl's appearance and expression really gave him a headache. Why did she make him not know whether to laugh or cry? There's a girl's body fragrance on you. It should have been pretty good last night. Xianyuan Ying whispered into Li Lingtian's ear. Her breath was like orchids, causing Li Lingtian's heart to itch. Li Lingtian was rendered speechless by her words. However, a smile appeared on his face. As a man, he should have a masculine aura. However, there were many girls around him, so it was normal for him to have a girl's body fragrance at all times. Aren't you also stuck to me? The fragrance still spread to me. Go away. I'm going to cultivate. Don't be idle either. Li Lingtian leaned forward and sniffed Xianyuan Yingying's body as he spoke with a smile on his face. This action made Xianyuan Yingying extremely shy. She did not expect Li Lingtian to behave like this. I'll go cultivate too. I told Meng Meng yesterday. Xianyuan Yingying held Li Lingtian's hand and dragged him forward as she spoke. The two of them soon arrived at a place not far from the garden. This place had a beautiful environment, and everyone liked to cultivate here. Therefore, early in the morning, a few girls gathered here to cultivate. If you said it, then so be it. Li Lingtian shrugged nonchalantly. Huang Fuyuyan and the others had done this on purpose. Besides, this was very normal. Then, he took Xianyuan Yingying's hand away and found a place at the edge of the pavilion to sit cross-legged. He began to cultivate. Xianyuan Yingying smiled when she saw Li Lingtian's reaction. She then started cultivating beside him. How was yesterday? After cultivating for 2 hours, the girls had stopped cultivating. They came to the pavilion beside Li Lingtian and asked him after he had finished cultivating. How was last night? Li Lingtian opened his eyes and saw Huang Fuyuyan, Tang Qingyue, and the rest by his side. He was confused when he heard Huang Fuyuyan's words.
He thought she was talking about Qingping.
What are you thinking? I'm talking about what happened at the auction. Huang Fuyuyan chuckled when she saw Li Lingtian's reaction. The other girls laughed as well. Li Lingtian's reaction was hilarious. He was an indomitable powerhouse with unparalleled dominance on the outside, but he was extremely gentle to his wife at home. Oh, I gained quite a lot last night. I obtained the Pill Tribulation Lightning Essence, the Spirit Cold Ice, and a Supreme Saint Weapon. After Li Lingtian finished his cultivation, he stood up and walked to Tang Qingyue's side. He recounted what happened at the auction last night, and the girls were extremely excited. Xianyuan Yingying added excitedly, Yu Yan, I just saw this gold-attributed saint artifact yesterday. It suits you. Li Lingtian took out Butterfly Shadow and handed it to Huang Fuyuyan. Then he took out some of the items. Immediately, the girls were extremely happy and began to choose what they liked. They were not particularly fond of treasures, as Li Lingtian's strength did not require them to do anything. If there were any treasures, he would have to gain experience so that he could help Li Lingtian in the future. After we settle down here, I'll help each of you find a suitable divine artifact. At that time, your strength will be able to increase. Even if I'm not by your side, you'll be able to protect yourselves. Li Lingtian watched as the girls took away some of the items with a faint smile on his face. All right, after the matters of Nandu Prefecture and Qingxian are settled, we will go and search for the treasures. Tang Ziming and the others were overjoyed. With Xianyuan Yingying, Ge, and Little White, they could turn the entire divine martial continent upside down. Li Lingtian was already used to them. He was even more delighted to see them now. You little girl, hurry up and cultivate. Tang Qingyue looked at Tang Ziming and knocked her head. That's for sure. At the very least, we have to cultivate to the martial emperor or martial saint level and live for hundreds or thousands of years. That way, we can travel the world. Tang Ziming did not resist at all. Instead, she snuggled up to Tang Qingyue. The two sisters were very close. Then you guys should cultivate well. I need to recover my cultivation during this period of time. Let's go and refine pills. Li Lingtian stood up. Shun Mei informed Tang Ziming before he headed to the alchemy room. In this mansion, he had specially built an alchemy room with countless spirit-gathering arrays. This way, he would not have to worry about not having enough spiritual energy when injecting spirit. Following that, Li Lingtian continued to refine elixirs while he recovered his cultivation base. He also revised his various skills and treasures to rapidly improve his abilities. A month had passed. On that day, Li Lingtian had just finished refining pills, and the true essence in his body was circulating rapidly. His cultivation had recovered to the peak of the third heaven of the martial emperor realm very quickly after he had been practicing alchemy. His genuine vitality was even stronger than before. All kinds of strength had also increased. He was naturally extremely excited about the recovery of his cultivation. At least he had recovered his cultivation and did not have to worry about any side effects.
Boom.
A series of explosions sounded in the alchemy room. Fortunately, There were countless arrays in the alchemy room, so Shun Mei and Tang Ziming were not hurt by the Jin Yuan and aura. Hurry up and leave. Call Ming Luo, Heavenly Monster King, and Yun however. I will break through at the back mountain. Li Lingtian quickly shouted at Shun Mei and Tang Ziming before he disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the back mountain of the mansion. Although this place was in the city, this mansion was close to the border of the county city. Naturally, the back mountain was also very large. Li Lingtian came to the edge of a cliff and walked with his legs crossed. He then circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation. At that moment, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other two were already 100 meters away from Li Lingtian. The three of them formed a triangular formation around Li Lingtian. As long as anyone came, they would be killed, and Li Lingtian's cultivation would not be disturbed. Chapter 589 World of Five Elements, Revival of All Things. The three martial arts saints were excited when Li Lingtian's cultivation base was restored. It should be noted that Li Lingtian's cultivation base had improved, so it was much easier for them. Moreover, their chances were very high. As long as Li Lingtian's cultivation base was restored, he would be able to refine a heaven-defying pill. Without pills, it would be wishful thinking to improve his cultivation base. They had tied their fates to Li Lingtian. If anything happened to him, they would be doomed. At that moment, Longda had also rushed back to a spot not too far away from Li Lingtian. The four of them then arranged for them to surround Li Lingtian within 1,000 meters. With the three martial saints and Longda, even if other martial saints came, they would not pose a threat to Li Lingtian.
Boom.
The air trembled as a shocking amount of spirit chi surged toward Li Lingtian. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky, and countless purple arcs of lightning shot out. Walla wallop. The cloudless sky of the prefecture city suddenly turned dark. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, creating a scene of destruction. Countless experts looked at the changes in the sky and were incomparably shocked. What's going on? Could it be that the bottomless abyss has opened in advance? That's impossible. When the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens opened, there was no such sign. What's going on? Could it be that something happened between the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal garden? What a terrifying omen! Even if a supreme realm expert broke through to the martial emperor realm, it's impossible for there to be such a strange sign. It's not breaking through to the martial monarch realm. Even if a martial monarch realm expert broke through to the martial saint realm, there wouldn't be such a shocking sign. Such a strange sign is happening within 10,000 miles. The world will change, and the world will be in chaos. In front. Within Nandu County, all the warriors stopped what they were doing and also stopped cultivating. They all looked at the changing scene in the sky. All of a sudden, discussions broke out, and every martial artist's face was filled with shock. Countless martial supremes and martial emperors gathered together to face the change in the sky. However, no one was sure what was the cause of this strange omen. They could only watch the lightning arcs crisscross in the sky. However, very soon, a huge purple arc of lightning descended from the sky and smashed fiercely onto the ground. Everyone knew the location of the anomaly. All the warriors looked at the purple lightning bolt. Its target was the back mountain of the Li residence. In the prefecture capital, Chu Tianlan and a few supreme experts, as well as the prince and princess, were all looking in the direction of the Li residence. All of them looked nervous and afraid. He had never seen such a scene before. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Could it be him? Chu Tianlan looked at the changes in the sky with a shocked expression. In the sky, the aura was changing unpredictably. One moment, the metal elemental aura was flying around violently, and the next moment, the space was burning and destroying. The aura of the five elements was constantly rotating. He immediately understood that the young master must be cultivating some kind of shocking divine ability. At the back of the Li residence's mountain, Li Lingtian's face was also filled with shock. He had never thought that such a heaven-defying change would actually occur when he broke through from level 3 to level 4. It completely exceeded his imagination. The will of the 5 elements appeared in his body, and the heaven and earth reincarnation technique circulated. The terrifying true origin had long broken through the bottleneck of the 4th-level martial emperor realm. However, it could not stop. It was as if he had encountered a heaven-defying opportunity. The world had fused with his body. Even if he wanted to hear the true essence, it was completely impossible. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others were extremely worried. Looking at the change in the sky, they were completely stunned. Even if they had broken through from the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm to the Martial Saint realm, they would not have seen such a heaven-defying scene. Li Lingtian's face was contorted. The only thing he could do was to hold on to his spirit. In his body, the will of the great path of metal erupted. Immediately, all the will of the great path of metal and the aura of spiritual energy in the world formed an independent world that kept spinning. The will of the metal path focused on destruction. It was the strongest and most beneficial existence in the world. The space was destroyed by the will of the great path of metal and turned into fragments. Countless experts felt as if the world was about to be destroyed. Low-level martial artists could only rely on their elders to protect them with their shields. Martial arts grandmasters and above could only use their shields to protect their bodies. Facing the destructive power of the 5 elements between heaven and earth, they finally understood how small they were in front of this destruction. It was still better for the experts below the Martial Emperor realm. However, only those who had reached the Martial Honored realm and Martial Emperor realm could truly feel the horror of destruction in front of this destructive metal will. Because they were close to the will of the Great Path, they knew the power of destruction. In front of this omnipresent 5 elements destruction, they were like ants in a hot pot. Boom! The aura between heaven and earth changed strangely. The destructive will of the great path of metal disappeared completely, and what appeared was a terrifying heat. It was as if the world was about to be burned. Instantly, the sky within a radius of 10,000 miles around the county capital turned fiery red, and all the space became a blazing hell. Li Lingtian's eyes were tightly shut and his face was filled with pain. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others also used their heaven-defying defenses to resist the destructive power. They were the ones who suffered the most during Li Lingtian's breakthrough. They did not dare to leave and could only endure the endless torture. Looking at Li Lingtian, who was not far away, it was as if he had turned into a ball of flames. Just as everyone was about to collapse, the heat between heaven and earth strangely disappeared. Phew! A breeze blew past, and the sweat on all the warriors' faces disappeared. They felt extremely relaxed, as refreshing and comfortable as the breeze in June. The heat in front of them was followed by a gentle breeze. Naturally, all the martial artists relaxed their minds. When their minds relaxed, all the martial artists sat on the ground weakly, as if they had walked around the edge of death. However, what they didn't expect was that behind this intoxicating breeze, everyone felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss of ice from a warm world, or rather, they had suddenly entered the frozen snow region. The cold wind was chilly, and thunder rumbled in the sky. Electric arcs crisscrossed, and snowflakes flew everywhere. Frost fell from the sky, followed by ice. The entire county city became a world of ice, turning into a glacier. Snowflakes flew in the sky. Countless warriors collapsed. In front of them was the destructive metal elemental aura, and behind them was the scorching hot world. They had barely managed to survive from the fiery world, but now they suddenly fell into the glacier. When would such a day end? Kiki. Even the martial emperors and martial supremes were grinding their teeth. His entire body trembled. Such a thing had never been imagined in the world of the strong. After an unknown period of time, finally, the thousands of miles of glaciers disappeared, and the snowflakes in the sky disappeared. However, when the snowflakes and glaciers disappeared, the temperature returned, but the earth began to flip, and the entire world was turned upside down. In the eyes of every martial artist, the world had been destroyed. In reality, The world was calm and lightning flashed. After an unknown period of time, all the martial artists entered the boundless sea. Shocking waves surged. In front of the shocking waves, even a martial monarch realm martial artist felt insignificant. Countless martial artists almost went crazy. Those who were lucky directly fainted. Seconds passed. Li Lingtian's entire body was constantly changing. He had already experienced the first 4 types of 5 elements Tao intent. To a certain extent, his entire person had also obtained endless sublimation. At this moment, the 4 guards could only rely on their consciousness to support themselves. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and they gritted their teeth, but they did not dare to faint. With type will of the great path, all things revive. At that moment, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and shouted softly. His voice was as loud as a dragon's roar. With this voice, all the negative effects within 10,000 miles disappeared. What appeared was the revival of all things, and the world was peaceful. The county city was unprecedentedly quiet. Birds sang and the fragrance of flowers bloomed. The greenery on the ground was vibrant and full of vitality. It was as if everything in the world had obtained endless vitality and a kind of recovery. The 5 elements of heaven and earth, the will of the great path, is unparalleled. The 5 elements are balanced, forming a world of its own. If the 5 elements do not stop, life will not stop. I see. I understand now, haha. The 5 elements of heaven and earth, the will of wood, revive all things. Li Lingtian muttered to himself before his face lit up with excitement. After the excitement, the expression on his face turned crazy. He floated in the air and stared at the void. It turned out that all of this was due to the perfection of the 5 elements. The so-called 5 elements of heaven and earth, the most original thing between heaven and earth was life. The most primitive thing was life. In the beginning, it was not destruction but life. Life was everything in the beginning. With a wave of his hands, an obscure and mysterious aura spread out between heaven and earth. After this obscure aura disappeared, the vitality between heaven and earth became even denser. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 3 finally recovered from the aura. They sat cross-legged and began to meditate. Ha ha ha. My cultivation has increased. Ha ha. My realm has loosened. My cultivation level has increased quite a bit. What's going on? The bottleneck that I had been stuck in has loosened. I understand. It's the will of the great path, a supreme will of the great path. In the county city, countless experts cried out in alarm, their faces filled with madness. Countless experts felt that their cultivation had increased for no reason, or that their bottlenecks had loosened for no reason, or that their realms had loosened and showed signs of breaking through. For a moment, countless martial artists sat cross-legged, feeling the wonderful feeling brought by this world just now. That kind of death and destruction, that kind of pain of entering the glacier with the burning hell, that kind of fear of the earth tumbling into the endless sea, all became a wonderful test at this moment. Third sky of the martial saint realm. Third sky of the martial saint realm. Third sky of the martial saint realm. The peak of the 7th rank and 9th rank, great perfection. At this moment, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 3 on the back mountain of the Li residence were excited. A shocking aura soared into the sky. While Li Lingtian was comprehending his breakthrough, he did not expect them to achieve a breakthrough and become a 3rd firmament martial saint. Even Long Da had attained the peak of Tier 7 Level 9. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 590, 4th Heaven Martial Emperor Realm. Li Lingtian did not expect such a situation to occur during his breakthrough. Looking at his 4 subordinates, he could not help but reveal a faint smile. He had broken through to the 4th heaven of the Martial Emperor Realm. This realm had brought about the benefits of the so-called usage. Li Lingtian was calm now, but his heart was in turmoil. It was impossible for such a heavenly omen to appear when a martial artist broke through, and it was also impossible for such a situation to appear. Rumble. In the sky, there would be a flash of lightning from time to time. Although the electric arcs were crisscrossing, they had already slowly disappeared. The originally dark sky of the county city was now cloudless. At this moment, the sky was not only quiet, but there was an unprecedented peace. Countless warriors sat cross-legged on the spot, comprehending everything that had just appeared. All of a sudden, all of the warriors had brought endless benefits. Some had breakthroughs, some had improvements, some had bottlenecks loosened, and some had cultivation mutations. All of a sudden, everything in Nandu County shocked all the warriors. I'm still a little short. 1 foot Chu Tianlan opened his eyes. Naturally, he was also affected, but he was unable to break through. As for the other princes and princesses, as long as they were talented, they would have more or less made breakthroughs and improvements. Father, do you really think it's the young lord? After Chu Meng woke up, her face was filled with surprise and yearning. Yes, only the young master has reached the 5 elements perfection. It's impossible for the young lord to keep a low profile. The world is changing and the world is in chaos. The world will tremble because of the young lord. Chu Tianlan looked up at the sky with an excited expression. No one knew what he was talking about except Chu Meng. Li Lingtian's expression was calm as he walked down the mountain step by step. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 3 followed behind him with even more respect and admiration. Li Lingtian's thin figure was like an insurmountable chasm and an unshakable mountain range to the 4 of them. Li Lingtian's every step carried the trajectory of heaven and earth, which was in line with the circulation of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. His entire person was like a part of the world, more like a part of the world. This was the 5 elements perfection. It fused the simplest and most primitive attributes of the world, but it was also the most powerful attribute. This world will tremble under my feet. Li Lingtian spoke indifferently as he walked. However, the words he heard were like an oracle. The oracle was engraved in the hearts of the 4 guards and would never be forgotten. Within the city, countless experts also felt the existence of this voice. Although it was soft, it struck the hearts of countless experts. Big Brother Ling Tian. Big Brother. Husband. Ling Tian. Young Master. Li Lingtian had just ascended the mountain when he saw a group of peerless girls waiting anxiously at the back of the mansion. The moment they saw him, the worry on their faces turned into joy. All of a sudden, everyone congratulated Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's heart was filled with warmth when he saw these girls. No matter what, they would always miss him. I've finally broken through to level 4. Li Lingtian had a smile on his face as he listened to the girls chattering away. To him, whatever they said was like heavenly music. A crisp and sweet voice rang in his ears. In the end, he brought the group of girls back to the mansion. Li Lingtian had no idea what happened outside when he broke through. He was shocked when he heard what Tang Qingyue and the others said. He did not expect that the breakthrough this time would be so heaven-defying. He also felt that something was not right. This was not the case when a warrior broke through, but it had happened to him. It must have something to do with the 5 elements Tao intent and the heaven and earth reincarnation. I didn't expect such a thing to happen either. However, after this breakthrough, I realized something that even this world can't know. It's about cultivation. That's the principle of the 5 elements. In this world, the first element was the wood element, which was also the power of life. It allowed me to understand the true meaning of the 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The 5 elements are mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. This is all on the surface, but it is also true. However, this is not the case after the origin. This breakthrough has elevated my cultivation base. It's not as simple as my strength. During this period of time, you guys should also properly comprehend what you have just comprehended. I'll go back and rest first. I'll casually stabilize my realm. Li Lingtian's expression changed when he mentioned the breakthrough. His eyes seemed to have seen the profound meaning of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, and his heart was filled with excitement. Finally, after making some simple arrangements, he returned to his room and began to comprehend. In the room, Li Lingtian circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation technique to comprehend the 5 elements Tao intent. The two were completely integrated. Heaven and earth were balanced by the 5 elements. Only when the 5 elements were balanced did heaven and earth form. The heaven and earth reincarnation technique was the most important cultivation technique for cultivating the 5 elements. It was also the only cultivation technique. This cultivation technique was the heaven and earth sacred scripture. There were tens of thousands of heaven and earth attributes, but they all originated from the same source. And this sect was the heaven and earth reincarnation technique, which fused any attribute in the world. His life came from 3,000 reincarnations ago, and he came here from his previous life. He fused with his soul, and the immemorial ice crystal activated the flaming sacred body. Just like that, the heaven and earth reincarnation technique appeared. The heaven and earth reincarnation technique had formed his 5 elements peak attribute. In other words, the one who truly made him strong was the immemorial ice crystal. Before 3,000 reincarnations, he was destroyed by the immemorial ice crystal. In fact, he was destroyed and then rebuilt. He was reborn as a phoenix. This was predestined. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many coincidences in the world. There was an opportunity, but he had to work hard. Only through hard work could he have everything he had now. Thinking about all these years, he had been walking on the edge of life and death, but in the end, he had become even stronger. Immemorial ice crystal, heaven and earth reincarnation technique, 5 elements perfection, ice, fire, 9 heavens. To accomplish my life, I will make this world tremble for me. Li Lingtian opened his sharp eyes and spoke indifferently. His aura burst forth, but he quickly retracted it. This was because this was a mansion. If he was struck by his aura, the entire mansion would be destroyed. Half a month had passed. In the past half a month, he had been comprehending the heaven and earth reincarnation technique, the 5 elements will, and the heaven-defying existences of ice, fire, and 9 heavens. His cultivation had finally stabilized. However, he was still shocked. This time, after his cultivation had recovered and he had broken through, his true origin was more than 10 times stronger than before. A level 4 martial emperor was equivalent to a level 7 martial emperor. Moreover, the golden core in his body had become stronger, and his true essence had also been sublimated. It was not just the existence of power, but an indescribable will. His every move carried the demeanor of an expert, as well as an extraordinary temperament. Now, he had truly grasped the 5 elements Tao intent. However, it was not something that could be done in a day or two if he wanted to unleash the 5 elements Tao intent to the extreme. Moreover, the moves and skills he used were no longer limited to movements. Instead, he used all kinds of things in the world as attacks. It could be said that plucking flowers and breaking leaves could kill the opponent. This was a true expert. More importantly, other than the Tianyu sword and the heavenly fault sword, the other saint weapons were no longer of any use or help to him. Heaven-grade divine powers were also at his fingertips. His true methods were the techniques of Saint Realm mighty figures and some heaven-defying methods. Li Lingtian left the room after his cultivation base was stabilized. Tang Qingwei and the others waited for him for half a month. Although Li Lingtian had achieved a breakthrough in his cultivation base, he was still worried. After all, Li Lingtian's breakthrough had brought about a change that was unheard of in the divine martial continent. Indeed, the divine martial continent did not have any experts with the 5 elements perfection. Even if there were, without the heaven and earth reincarnation art, they would not be able to cause the world's metamorphosis. After coming out, Li Lingtian walked confidently to the girls as he watched Tang Qingwei and the others conversing in the garden. "Big brother, you've finished cultivating?" Ji happened to be facing Li Lingtian's direction. Naturally, she was the first to see Li Lingtian when he came out. After she shouted, the girls reacted and were instantly overjoyed. They came to Li Lingtian's side and pulled him to sit down. They sized up Li Lingtian's expression and cultivation base. My cultivation base has stabilized. You guys look very happy. I wonder what happened? Li Lingtian looked at Huang Fuyan. Although there was worry on their faces, they were more delighted since Li Lingtian had come out. Your cultivation has broken through, and your realm has stabilized.
Of course you're happy.
Also, during this period of time, the number of experts who joined our Li residence has increased exponentially. The main reason is that your breakthrough has brought endless benefits to them. Naturally, they want to use your breakthrough to obtain some enlightenment in the future. Huang Fuyan said with a smile as she leaned against Li Lingtian. It was not only the other martial artists who had broken through. They were all proud daughters of heaven. Their talent could be said to be heaven-defying. They had also broken through this time. These fellows are quite troublesome. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so simple if I made a move. Li Lingtian did not mind as his cultivation base had been restored and was now even stronger. Naturally, he wouldn't care about these things. However, this was also a good thing. It was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Husband, are you going to tidy up Nandu County? Shunmei noticed that Li Lingtian's aura had changed ever since his breakthrough. Although he was gentle in front of them, they could feel the change in Li Lingtian. In their eyes, they were overjoyed. No matter what, Li Lingtian was still their beloved. We can't do anything for the time being, but we can make some arrangements. After all, there's still the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal garden. After these two things are over, the Black Continent will tremble. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian exuded a faintly discernible powerful aura. It was an aura that he was born with, and it was the aura of a heaven-defying powerhouse. Although her voice was calm, the girls knew that the world would be in chaos in Xianzhou. Li Lingtian had never said these words in front of them before. Although he was powerful back then, he was not as heaven-defying as he was now. Li Lingtian's actions showed that he was confident. Chapter 591, Tidying Up Nandu County 1. Li Lingtian's so-called arrangement was merely to gather some forces in Nandu County. Although Nandu County was under the jurisdiction of the prefecture, there were still many individual families under the jurisdiction of the prefecture. Similarly, these families were also the key to threatening the prefecture because the prefecture was also a family, but this family was stronger than the other families. There were countless families in Xianzhou. Commanderies and countries were all controlled by the families. Although the main figures who controlled the commanderies and countries were from their families, they almost had to leave their families. They had to seek benefits not only for their families, but also for the commanderies and countries. Otherwise, the powerful empires and kingdoms would not allow them to exist. Nandu County was the Chu clan's territory, and Chu Tianlong was a genius nurtured by the Chu clan, who was in charge of Nandu County. Chu Tianlong was backed by the Chu clan. She relied on the Chu clan's power to become the ruler of Nandu Prefecture. However, once he became the ruler, he couldn't seek personal gain anymore. He had to consider the commandery. Now, Li Lingtian wanted to help Chu Tianlong get rid of some disobedient families so that they would not become a stumbling block in Nandu County. At the same time, he was paving the way for himself. Tell me about the threat of Nandu County. I'll get someone to help you eliminate it. Don't become my stumbling block. After the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens is over, the situation in Qingxian will change again. Li Lingtian sent someone to deliver Chu Tianlong to the Li residence. Li Lingtian sat at the head of the table with a calm expression on his face. He didn't care about the ruler of a commandery. He had to give some orders, so he wouldn't go to the commandery in person. He could just summon the ruler directly. Chu Tianlong was not displeased at all. Instead, she was excited because Li Lingtian was in Nandu County and she could curry favor with him. Perhaps he could go further in the future. In the commandery, he was a ruler. But in front of the king of Qingxian, he was just an ant. However, he understood that Qingxian was merely a subordinate in front of Li Lingtian. An insignificant subordinate. Hence, One could only imagine Li Lingtian's identity. Since he had to be respectful in front of the king, he naturally had to be even more respectful in front of Li Lingtian. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had given him a bottle of peerless cleansing pills and a bottle of peerless purple jade pills when he left the Li residence. These 2 bottles of pills were enough for the father and daughter to break through a major realm. He knew very well that there was a saint alchemist in each of the 3 great empires of the Xian continent. Saint alchemists were the foundation that supported the empires. In order to have greater achievements, the country must have its own pill refiners. Now, a heaven-defying super saint pill refiner had appeared in the Qing Xian country's background. This subordinate understands. This subordinate will definitely not disappoint young master. Chu Tianlong bowed respectfully and nodded. Finally, she told him some of Nandu County's strength. He did not mention the other foreign experts because these forces were facing the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens.
He would clean them up at that time.
Now he had to sort out the internal affairs of Nandu County and wipe out some families. Dongho clan, Bai clan, Zhou clan. Let's get rid of them. However, pay attention to Dongho clan. This clan doesn't seem simple. After listening to Chu Tianlong's explanation, Li Lingtian gained a new understanding of the true situation in Nandu County. A few big families had hopes of competing for the position of the monarch. The position of the monarch of Nandu Prefecture could also be changed. However, the Chu family had been strong for years. The few families did not have much confidence and did not dare to make a move easily. After all, there was still the Qing Xian kingdom above. The Qing Xian kingdom could turn a blind eye and allow the commanderies below to change dynasties, but they would not let them overturn the heavens and affect the foundation of the Qing Xian kingdom. Therefore, when the commanderies were affected, the Qing Xian kingdom would also take action. Unless they could seize the position of the country ruler in a short period of time, they would not dare to act rashly. If they did not succeed, they would disappear into thin air. If they succeeded, they would become the country ruler. Therefore, over the years, several large families had the strength to compete, but they did not dare to make a move easily. Now, Li Lingtian wanted to eliminate a few threatening families. When he spoke, he was extremely relaxed, as if it was a common meal. In Chu Tianlong's eyes, she was extremely excited. This was the young master. He could just wipe out a family with a single word. I wonder what arrangements young master has. Chu Tianlong had received Li Lingtian's order to eliminate the other clans. It was imperative to do so, but they had to find a better way to do so. With the Chu clan strength, it was still possible to deal with one clan, but it would be difficult to deal with several clans. Even if he knew that the Chu family's position as the family ruler was at stake, Li Lingtian could make the Chu family prosper with just a word. However, he wanted to see what Li Lingtian could do. It would be even better if Li Lingtian's men were involved. I don't care about schemes and plots. The art of war is deceitful, but now is not the time for a war between nations. It's not the time for internal problems. We should just crush them mercilessly. Sky Demon, Yu and Bai Qing helped them these few days. Don't attack anyone below the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm. If anything happens, wipe them all out. Leave no one alive. Li Lingtian said to the heavenly monster king behind him before he summoned the jade-eyed beast. During this period of time, the cultivation of the jade-eyed beast had also increased to a terrifying level. He had reached level 5 of level 7, which meant that he was at the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm. Coupled with the strength of his demon race, he could even kill a 6th or 7th heaven martial emperor. This subordinate will obey. Hee. Heavenly Demon Monarch respectfully went forward to receive the order. After receiving the order, he revealed a bloodthirsty smile. It was obvious that he liked to fight. However, while laughing, he patted the jade-eyed beast beside him. The jade-eyed beast couldn't transform into a human, but it could grow and shrink. When it was big, it could reach 20 meters in size. After shrinking, it was only 2 meters long and 1 meter tall. It looked like a ferocious beast, not a terrifying 7th-tier 5th-level demon beast at all. Get lost. A tier 7 jade-eyed beast couldn't transform, but it could speak. It immediately roared when it saw the Heaven Demon Monarch slap it. Both of them were demons. Initially, a Tier 7 Jade-Eyed Beast would not have the guts to roar in front of a Tier 8 Heavenly Demon King. However, since the two of them were cultivating together and were under Li Lingtian's command, they were not afraid of the Heavenly Demon King. Furthermore, the Heaven Demon King wasn't angry at all. He kicked the Jade-Eyed Beast fiercely. Roar! Swoosh! Heaven Demon Monarch disappeared in a flash. The Jade-Eyed Beast also turned into a shadow and chased after him. Li Lingtian completely ignored the two of them and was too lazy to get angry with them. Out of sight, out of mind. However, he understood that although the two of them were fooling around, they were extremely serious when facing their enemies. They were definitely the best comrades because they had a common master. Chu Tianlan, who was at the side, was completely stunned. He could clearly feel that the big guy was a terrifying fellow. Even if he was a martial monarch realm expert, he was like an ant in front of this big guy. However, he did not expect that he would be fooling around with a 7th level mystical beast. He was not worried at all. Li Lingtian had his reasons for making such arrangements. He could tell from Li Lingtian's words that his men would not fight against enemies below the 5th Heaven Martial Emperor realm. He wanted to train them so that if they failed, the Chu clan would be eliminated. This subordinate will do it now. Chu Tianlan stood up and bowed when she saw that Li Lingtian was silent. When he reached the door, Heaven Demon King and Jade-Eyed Beast were already waiting. I'll have to trouble the two of you in the future. Chu Tianlan cupped his fists at the Heavenly Monster King and the Jade-Eyed Beast. He appeared rather polite. After all, the Heavenly Monster King had transformed into a human and was a terrifying fellow. More importantly, the Heavenly Demon King's guards represented Li Lingtian. He did not dare to offend them. Even if the Jade-Eyed Beast had not transformed, he did not dare to offend it and had to treat it with equal courtesy. I don't want to fight trash below the rank of a martial saint. Leave it to it. It likes to play. The Heavenly Monster King ignored Chu Tianlan, but he didn't make things difficult for her. After all, Chu Tianlan was the young master's subordinate. As he spoke, he looked at the Jade-Eyed Beast beside him. Although they were playing with each other, they did not look down on the Jade-Eyed Beast in terms of cultivation. After all, their talents were different. However, if Li Lingtian was in a good mood, he could simply give them a pill and allow them to advance in a heaven-defying manner. I wanted to move around a little more, but the young master said that we can't attack anyone below the 5th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm. We can't disobey the young master's orders. You have to work hard. The young master doesn't want trash. However, you'd better not fight with me for those above the 5th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm. And you watch out when the time comes. If I die, you won't feel good in front of the young master. The Jade-Eyed Beast Bull's tone was so loud that if Li Lingtian were here, he would have sent it flying with a kick. However, even though it was arrogant, its words were reliable. It kept Li Lingtian's words in mind and could not defy him in the slightest. In the end, he spoke to the Heavenly Demon King. He wasn't afraid of losing face. Chu Tianlan looked at the two terrifying fellows talking to each other, and her heart trembled in shock. Black lines appeared on his face. What kind of existence were these? Otherwise, if these two fellows were sent by the young master, he would really think that these two fellows were embroidered pillows. I understand. Please. After Chu Tianlan finished speaking, she made an inviting gesture and left the Li residence with the two Heavenly Monster Kings. Li Lingtian waved his hand after Chu Tianlan left. Young master. Martial Saint Ming Luo stepped forward and bowed respectfully as she awaited Li Lingtian's instructions. Keep an eye on them in secret. Although a few families are nothing, it's definitely not that simple in the dark. Don't show yourself unless it's absolutely necessary. If there's a problem, bring the Heavenly Yao by Qing and Chu Tianlan back first. Li Lingtian said calmly. The few clans were more powerful, and they were able to maintain a stable position in Nandu County. It should not be that simple. In the divine martial continent, even though the strong were respected, there were still many schemes and plots. Usually, some families had big plans and hid them even deeper. Therefore, he didn't want the Heaven Demon Monarch to be plotted against. Heaven Demon Monarch was very strong and intelligent, but he was inferior to cunning humans when it came to schemes. Chapter 592. Dongho Family. This subordinate will obey. Marshal Saint Ming Luo bowed respectfully and left the hall. After leaving the hall, his aura became faint and his cultivation became even lower. To outsiders, he was only at the martial royal realm. Such a cultivation was the best in the county capital. It would not attract attention, nor would it be looked down upon. Moreover, his original appearance had changed, and he looked rather wooden. Even if Li Lingtian was not careful, he would not have recognized him. After doing everything, he quickly left the Li residence. He was extremely touched. He finally understood why there was such a huge gap between them. At 22 or 23 years old, Li Lingtian had already attained the fourth firmament martial emperor realm and became a saint alchemist to refine peerless pills. His strength was shocking, and his identity was even more unimaginable. This was because Li Lingtian was incomparable to the so-called heaven's favorite in every aspect. No one could compare to him when it came to treating his subordinates. He could treat his subordinates like his own brothers. The Heavenly Monster King was the same as him. He had submitted to Li Lingtian and followed him in the same situation as the demonic tower. Furthermore, the Heavenly Demon King was a demon. However, Li Lingtian was still concerned about the Heavenly Demon King's danger. He would not allow any of his subordinates to die so easily. After Li Lingtian finished arranging everything, he felt much more relaxed. Although there were only Longda and Yunhao by his side, he didn't feel unsafe at all. With his current cultivation, he might not lose even if he was at the second or third sky of the martial saint realm, let alone the first sky. They have something to do. However, the few of you shouldn't be idle. Raise your cultivation a little. Li Lingtian said to Marshal Saint Yunhao and Longda before he waved his hand. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the two of them were sucked into the divine dragon ring. In the end, Li Lingtian's divine consciousness followed suit and entered the divine dragon ring. The divine dragon ring was now a boundless space. It was unknown how big it was. Although it was barren inside, Li Lingtian had absorbed a lot of spirit chi into it, and there was a faint spirit chi in it. However, Li Lingtian allowed them to cultivate outside the dragon abyss. That place had a mix of dragon energy and spirit chi. Even if they were humans, they would be able to improve their cultivation and strength quickly. Yunhao was also cultivating in this place, so Longda naturally entered the dragon energy of the 3,000 worlds to cultivate. After Li Lingtian entered the divine dragon ring, he was the master of the place. He could go wherever he wanted. This time, when he arrived in front of the silver-winged flying dragon, he saw that the silver-winged flying dragon was cultivating diligently. The silver-winged flying dragon was one of the few demonic beasts that had followed him the earliest, and it was also the most powerful. Li Lingtian had been cultivating inside for a long time, but he did not call him out to become his trump card. Ever since the last time he was in the demon suppression secrets, he had not gone out after coming in. Young master. The silver-winged flying dragon stopped its cultivation upon Li Lingtian's arrival and opened its sharp eyes. Similarly, silver-winged flying dragons could not transform unless they had a heaven-defying fortuitous encounter. However, when he used his true body to fight, his strength was even more terrifying than after he transformed. Not bad. You've already reached level 7 or 9. Wait for the opportunity to break through. If you don't have the opportunity, you can only wait for me to reach the strength of a true dragon before I can raise your realm. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation base. During this period of time, the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation base had advanced by leaps and bounds due to its diligent cultivation. This was also the reason why it felt that its cultivation base was too low after Li Lingtian's previous injury. It wanted to raise its cultivation base to provide greater help to Li Lingtian. As it was Li Lingtian's combat partner, who had been by his side the longest, it could not let Li Lingtian and Little White down. This subordinate will definitely work hard to cultivate. It's only a matter of time before young master reaches the strength of a true dragon. The silver-winged flying dragon answered respectfully as it waited for Li Lingtian's instructions. We'll see. If it really doesn't work, I'll give you a little dragon soul. Maybe you can break through. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he left the 3,000 dragon energy world with a flash of his divine consciousness and finally arrived at his herb garden. Looking at the medicinal garden that was 50 miles in size and filled with precious medicinal herbs and spiritual fruits that were over 10,000 years old, as well as natural treasures, a smile appeared on his face. After walking around the divine dragon ring, he left and returned to the real world. The next day, the county capital was in a complete upheaval. The entire Nandu County had begun to clean up. Originally, a few powerful families had posed a threat to the country ruler's status. Even the country ruler did not dare to touch a few families. However, this time, the country ruler personally led the experts to sort out all the families. The families with disloyalty were wiped out. For a moment, the Nandu County city was in turmoil. Other foreign forces could only hide and not dare to provoke them. They were all puzzled. They didn't understand what the prefecture was doing, and they didn't know why the prefecture was so bold. What was even more terrifying was that the 6 families were either destroyed or submitted in a short day. None of them dared to resist. Even a reclusive first sky martial saint expert was beaten to pieces by a big guy beside the king. What kind of concept was a martial saint? In the commandery, he was an invincible existence, a supreme existence. A martial saint was the pillar of a kingdom. However, there was a martial saint in a commandery's family. However, this martial saint was killed. All of a sudden, countless families and forces began to take sides and did not dare to go against the prefecture. Chu Tianlan was the one who should be happy. He never expected the heavenly monster king to be a martial saint. A terrifying martial saint. He was so powerful that he could even kill the martial saint of the Bai family in a few moves. This made him stunned for a long time. They admired Li Lingtian even more. Even a super martial saint powerhouse was respectful to Li Lingtian. There was also the jade-eyed beast. It did not look like much, but when it faced a 5th-level martial emperor, its terrifying demonic power tore the 5th-level martial emperor apart. He was also invincible against a 6th or 7th heaven martial monarch realm expert. Thank you for your help. You've worked hard. In the evening, Chu Tianlan and a few powerful experts accompanied the heavenly monster king and the jade-eyed beast back to the prefecture palace. Chu Tianlan said respectfully. In their eyes, the two of them were existences that they could only look up to. If even a martial saint could be easily killed, who wouldn't be afraid of such an expert? It's just a small matter. However, the young master said that we have to pay attention to Dongho clan. You guys should keep a close eye on them. The heavenly monster king was still the same. He didn't like Chu Tianlan and didn't make things difficult for her. I understand. I've already sent people to secretly keep an eye on the Bai family. I'll have to trouble the two of you tomorrow. Chu Tianlan was not displeased by the heavenly demon king's words. The heavenly demon king's cultivation base and strength were definitely worthy of him. Furthermore, the heavenly demon king was Li Lingtian's bodyguard. You guys can go back. I'm going to cultivate. Sky Demon King waved his hand. He didn't want to talk to anyone. They wouldn't have any trouble with what young master wanted them to do. However, they didn't want to provoke anyone else. Then we will take our leave first. Chu Tianlan left with the other experts, looking extremely polite. The few super experts were all 5th or 6th firmament martial monarch realm existences. However, they were completely ants in front of the 2 heaven demon monarchs. The next day, Chu Tianlan and the others arrived at Dongho's residence. Dongho clan was the most powerful clan in Nandu County after the Chu clan, and they had an extremely strong background. Chu Tianlan, I've been waiting for you for a long time. When Dongho Ming saw Chu Tianlan and the others, a sinister smile appeared on his face. The hundreds of martial supremes and martial emperors behind him formed a powerful formation. It was obvious that they were about to fight like trapped beasts. Dongho's house occupied a radius of several miles and was extremely spacious. Now, hundreds of super experts had gathered together because the Chu clan had already made a move against the other clans. They didn't want any future trouble. Since that was the case, it was necessary to distinguish between the strong and the weak. Haha, so the Dongho clan had already planned to rebel.
Very well then.
My lord will help His Majesty clean up your Dongho family. If Chu Tianlan still didn't understand at this moment, she wouldn't be fit to be a ruler. Even if they didn't make a move, the Dongho family would make a move against Nandu Commandery sooner or later. He had subdued the 6 families, and now the Dongho family was already waiting here, ready for a showdown. After saying that, the hundreds of experts behind him took a step forward. The Chu clan was powerful to begin with. With the power of the prefecture, most of the hundreds of experts were martial emperors. They were much stronger than the Dongho clan. With the current situation, as long as no accidents happened, they could wipe out Dongho clan.
Boom. Boom.
A great battle was about to break out, and there was no room for negotiation. More than 200 Supreme Realm and Martial Monarch Realm experts fought together, and destructive attacks flew in all directions in the air. The jade-eyed beast transformed into a 20-meter-long beast and charged inside. Its aura was like a rainbow. Every attack killed a Supreme Realm expert. Even a Martial Emperor Realm expert was killed in an instant. On both sides of the battle, only Chu Tianlan and the Heavenly Demon Monarch didn't make a move. In the Dongho family, Grand Elders Dongho Wuwen and Dongho Ming floated in the air as they watched the battle below coldly. Seeing the experts of Dongho clan being killed by the jade-eyed beast, Dongho Ming's body flashed, and he dove down. He attacked the jade-eyed beast ferociously. The attack of an 8th-level Martial Emperor Realm expert was earth-shattering. You're courting death. Naturally, the jade-eyed beast had noticed Dongho Ming's destructive attack. It swung its huge tail into the air, causing the space to tremble and tear apart.
Boom.
The destructive attack collided with the huge tail. The jade-eyed beast retreated 100 meters, and Dongho Ming was also thrown into the air. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. In the face of true power, humans could never be compared to demons.
You really hit it well.
The 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm, but now he's unleashing the strength of the 8th level. He's plotting something big and hiding something deep. Chu Tianlan looked at Dongho Ming's cultivation base and was extremely shocked. She spoke softly. He was trying to tell the Heavenly Demon King that the Dongho family had hidden their strength well. If even a Martial Monarch Realm family could hide such a heaven-defying cultivation, then the Grand Elder must be even more terrifying. Chapter 593, Mysterious Expert 1. Be careful. Heaven Demon Monarch wasn't stupid. He naturally understood the situation. However, it was hard to predict what would happen later on. He did not dare to be careless about the matter that the young master had given him. He had to make sure that no accident happened. At this time, he could only use his full strength to deal with his opponent like an eagle hunting a rabbit, killing his opponent and the thread in the cradle. As soon as he finished speaking, his body flashed, and his tall figure disappeared into the air. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Dongho Wuwen. The heaven-shocking hammer in his hand struck out fiercely. The shocking power of the 3rd sky of the Martial Saint Realm tore the space apart. Grotto Heaven Dark North / East Marquis Wuwen was extremely shocked when he saw the 3rd Firmament Martial Saint cultivation base of Heavenly Demon Monarch. He circulated his quintessential essence and waved his hand. A peerless saint artifact appeared in his hand. The destructive power tore through the space and ruthlessly slashed at the heavens' startling hammer. One was a high-grade saint artifact, while the other was a peerless saint artifact. However, the difference in their cultivation levels was too great, so it could only be decided on the saint artifact. Crash. Gotcha. The space was torn apart by the 2 destructive attacks and finally shattered. In the county city, countless experts were shocked when they saw the battle between the 2 martial saints. He did not expect a martial saint to appear in a commandery, and 2 martial saints were fighting. Such a thing was completely beyond the imagination of all the experts. What terrifying power! I didn't expect there to be a martial saint in Nandu County. Dongho clan has such a martial saint hidden within them. He's definitely not simple. It seems that the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens isn't as easy as I thought. Things are getting more and more exciting. In the city, countless experts were shocked, but there were also many super experts who were secretly surprised. The battle between the prefecture and Dongho clan had caused a huge commotion in Nandu Prefecture.
Puffed.
Sho. In the air, Dongho Wu spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. In the end, he forced himself to stand in the air. The Grotto Heaven North nether slash in his hand was also extremely weak. Although the attack just now had the power of a supreme saint weapon, his cultivation was only at the first heaven. He had no advantage in front of a third heaven. If not for the supreme saint weapon, he would have been killed by the heaven demon monarch. Thinking about the attack just now, his heart was still trembling. The third heaven was never something that the first heaven could surpass. Heaven demon monarch's body swayed as he was shaken by the other party's attack. Anger rose in his heart. The other party's Saint Pinnacle artifact had actually blocked his attack. In his eyes, this was a complete insult. With a flash, he charged towards Dongho Wu once again. Instantly, a series of explosions sounded in the air, suppressing the sounds of the other battles. 2 figures flashed, and the space was torn apart. Heaven's shocking hammer strike. The battle between the 2 martial saints had stopped the other martial emperors and revered martial artists. Countless experts of the Dongho clan had been killed. At this moment, the Heaven Demon Monarch found a good opportunity. He waved the heaven-shocking hammer in his hand and smashed it ruthlessly. Immediately, the sky trembled and the villages shattered. This destructive power, pure strength, seemed to want to destroy the entire world. East Marquis Wu Wen's eyes were filled with fear. At this moment, he no longer had the power to resist. At the start, he had been suppressed and had suffered many serious injuries. Even at his peak, he might not have been able to withstand this destructive attack, let alone now. He circulated all his true essence and made a desperate attack. The space was torn apart by a strange aura. The destructive strike of a martial saint expert had a terrifying aura. Within 1,000 miles of Dongho's house, everyone could feel the destructive aura. Countless curious warriors had already retreated.
Boom.
With a loud explosion, the mansion of Dongho clan was razed to the ground. Countless disciples were killed, and all the martial artists below the martial emperor realm were killed. East Marquis Wu Wen's body was thrown out. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his life force was almost gone. However, there was a sinister smile in his eyes. Chu Tianlong and the others felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. All of them felt that this was an illusion because the Dongho clan had already been destroyed. Only a few revered martial artists and martial emperors were left. One of the other party's martial saints had fallen. He still had a martial saint expert on his side. It would only take him a little time to wipe out Dongho clan. Extreme Emperor shocking world record. At this moment, a faint voice appeared in the sky. The voice was ethereal, but it had a powerful shock, as if a god had descended. All the martial artists trembled in front of this voice and were finally suppressed to the ground. A mysterious beam of light pressed down on Heavenly Demon Monarch in the sky. Its power was shocking, and the sky seemed to be sealed. Heavenly Demon Monarch had just used his full strength to unleash a heaven-shaking hammer strike, and he had consumed more than half of his demonic powers. Before he could react, he was trapped by this mysterious light. He could only watch as the mysterious light smashed down with destructive power. This mysterious light was like the might of the heavens, making people submit and worship it. Upon seeing this, Sky Demon King, Chu Tianlong and company understood that the true expert of Dongho family wasn't Dongho Wu Wen, but this hidden expert. Dongho Wu Wen had only come out to exhaust the Heaven Demon King's cultivation level and attract his attention. He wanted to create an opportunity for the Dongho family's experts. Now, Dongho Wuwen had sacrificed his life in exchange for the opportunity to destroy the Heaven Demon King. The space was extremely quiet. The destructive light slowly descended. The speed seemed slow, but it was actually very fast. In front of this light, Heavenly Demon Monarch's eyes were filled with despair. Normally, he would definitely have a chance to block it because the other party was only an expert at the peak of the third sky of the Martial Saint realm. There was a difference in their cultivation, but it was not to the extent that he could not fight back. Sky Demon. When the Jade-Eyed Beast saw that the Sky Demon Monarch was about to be killed, it immediately became anxious and roared. However, with his current strength, he could not move at all. This was the power of his realm. A difference of one level was like two worlds. You're courting death. At this moment, another voice sounded in the air. When this voice sounded, a destructive force smashed down on the third heaven expert who had used the Royal Shocking World Record. At the same time, a strange shield spun and crashed toward the Heavenly Demon King like a cloud. Divine Heaven-Splitting Shield. Ming Luo, you're here? When Heavenly Demon King heard the familiar voice in the sky and saw the familiar shield, he immediately became excited. His heart ached. His battle companion was still useful. At a critical moment, his companion was the one who was worried about him. With Martial Saint Ming Luo's arrival, he would be saved. At the same time, the Jade-Eyed Beast on the ground also felt at ease. Chu Tianlan heard the Heavenly Monster King's voice. Although she didn't know why the Heavenly Monster King was so excited, she knew that another expert had arrived. 3 destruction styles? The Ming family? In the air, the white-haired old man who had used the Royal Shocking World Record cried out in alarm. His eyes revealed a look of fear. Similarly, after his terrified expression, he revealed a trace of anger and a trace of unwillingness. He had used such a price, but he still failed. Now, he had no way out. He couldn't kill the Heaven Demon Monarch. He still had the 3 destruction styles behind him. If he didn't give up, he could only wait for destruction. Moreover, as long as the Heavenly Demon King was rescued, the 2 Third Firmament Martial Saints would join forces and kill him even if he was at the peak Third Firmament perfection. His eyes revealed a strange light, and his face was determined. He pressed his hands together, and the destructive light pressed down. This move was a suicidal move. The Heavenly Demon King, Martial Saint Ming Luo, and all the experts present did not expect this to happen. In everyone's opinion, the white-haired elder would withdraw his attack and allow the Heaven Demon Monarch's companions to successfully rescue him. However, he did not know why the white-haired old man would choose to die together with him. Boom. Boom. In the blink of an eye, 2 muffled sounds rang out in the air. The extreme Royal Shocking World Record's radiance struck the Sky Demon Monarch. The radiance collided with the divine Heaven-Splitting Shield. Space tore apart. The Sky Demon Monarch spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At the same time, the white-haired old man was also struck by the 3 destruction styles. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was pale. His body retreated 100 meters, and he was extremely weak. 3 destruction stances, destruction of the heavens and earth. Martial Saint Ming Luo didn't expect his opponent to perish together with him. At this moment, the Heavenly Demon King was heavily injured. How could he not be angry? He unleashed all his quintessential essence and the 3 destruction styles. A destructive fist shadow blasted out, and a hole was pierced through the space by this fist shadow. At the same time, his body flashed and shot toward the Heavenly Demon King on the ground. He grabbed the Heavenly Demon King with one hand, and a halo appeared. At the same time, it surrounded the Jade-Eyed Beast and Chu Tianlan. His body flashed, and he retreated rapidly, floating in the air far away. Boom. After everything was done, the domineering 3 destruction styles finally struck the white-haired old man. The destructive attack could have destroyed the injured white-haired old man who had no way to fight back, but the 3 destructive moves were swallowed by a strange halo in the air. Seeing this, Martial Saint Ming Luo was shocked. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She quickly flashed and wanted to escape. As he fled, he did not forget to launch an attack on the ground. The destructive attack hit the empty ground and woke up the experts of the prefecture. It's too late to leave. The white-haired elder's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Marshal Saint Ming Luo, blocking her path. His eyes were blood-red, and his aura was shocking. His cultivation realm had already broken through to the fourth heaven. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was extremely shocked. He knew that the white-haired expert before him had used a secret technique and paid a heaven-defying price to block his attack and temporarily increase his cultivation. This change was only temporary, and the other party would have to pay a heavy price. However, now that the other party was at the fourth heaven, he could easily kill him. Furthermore, he had brought the heavenly monster king, Chu Tianlan, and the jade-eyed beast with him. Even if he was empty-handed, he was no match for the white-haired expert. For a moment, he was at a loss. Chapter 594. In the Moment of a Finger. Chu Tianlan looked at the white-haired old man's condition. Even if he wasn't a martial saint, he understood the current situation. The white-haired old man used a secret technique, causing his cultivation to soar and his injuries to recover. The people around young master didn't forget him when they saved their companions. They were extremely grateful. He was sure that it was Li Lingtian's intention, but given the current situation, no one could leave. Ming Luo, leave quickly. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave. The moment Heavenly Demon King saw Marshal Saint Ming Luo, he knew what was going on. Young master was worried about him, so he sent Marshal Saint Ming Luo to attack secretly. He was extremely grateful. He understood that the young master knew that his schemes couldn't win against humans, which was why he had asked Ming Luo to come. At this time, if Ming Luo brought them along, everyone would definitely die here. If Ming Luo left alone, there was still a chance. Shut up. Young master said that I should bring the three of you back. Otherwise, I would be failing my duty. Marshal Saint Ming Luo snorted coldly. Her heart was racing as she tried to find a way to escape from this place. As long as they escaped and informed the young master, they would have a chance to be rescued. Although the voice was fierce, Chu Tianlan and the other two didn't hear any viciousness in it. Instead, it sounded like concern. True companions could only be seen in the most dangerous times. I don't want to fight with you. If you escape, the young master will have another helper. If everyone stays, who will protect the young master? The Heavenly Demon King shouted loudly. His eyes were blood-red, and he wanted to struggle, but he was trapped by Marshal Saint Ming Luo's halo. Hee, it's impossible for you to leave. Just wait to die. The white-haired old man's eyes were blood-red, and the aura around his body became stronger and stronger. His eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty smile, as terrifying as a monster that wanted to devour people. Humph, let's see how long you can last. Do you think you can kill me in a short time? Marshal Saint Ming Luo's figure flashed as she flew around the white-haired elder. As long as she left this place and fled to the Li residence, Li Lingtian would discover her. Bang! However, as soon as it flew out, it was rebounded by a destructive force. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was extremely shocked. In front of this white-haired old man, he had only reached the fourth heaven temporarily, but he was already so powerful. Pfft! He spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale and powerless. You know that I've only reached the fourth heaven temporarily. Do you think I'll stall for time? Die. The white-haired old man's aura reached its peak. He grabbed at the air with one hand, and a stream of pure spiritual qi turned into a giant sword, which struck toward Marshal Saint Ming Luo. The attack came casually, and there was no move at all. It was completely the purest spiritual energy in the air. At this stage, there was no need for any skills or treasures. As long as one's cultivation was strong, any movement would carry destructive power. The destructive spirit energy sword was about to strike Marshal Saint Ming Luo. As long as she was struck, Marshal Saint Ming Luo would die. The heavenly monster king, Chu Tianlan, and the jade-eyed beast would all be killed. In the county city, countless experts looked at the situation in the sky with shock in their eyes. He had never expected that the prefecture's cleanup of the family would actually attract so many martial saints, and they were so abnormally powerful. The battle between the martial saints had exceeded the imagination of all the powerhouses. Looking at the giant sword of spiritual energy that was destroyed in the air, everyone knew that the Chu family's world was over. The Chu family's backing was about to be destroyed. However, at this moment, the giant sword of spiritual energy in the air strangely stopped moving in the air. Countless experts in Nandu County were puzzled by this situation. Only the white-haired old man's expression became fearful. On the contrary, Martial Saint Ming Luo's eyes were filled with passion and worship. Heavenly Demon Monarch and company also discovered the situation in the sky. They looked at the spirit energy sword in the distance in shock. The giant sword of spiritual energy was held in the air by a strange force and could not move at all. At this moment, Martial Saint Ming Luo was the first to react. With a flash, she brought Heavenly Demon King and the others out of the attack range of the giant sword. Trash. In the sky, a figure appeared strangely. The figure was elegant and elegant. The extraordinary temperament of the entire person made all the martial artists admire and worship him. This figure was obviously a young man. However, this figure was wearing a silver mask. Only his eyes and mouth could be seen. As for the rest, they had no idea what this young man looked like. But at this moment, no matter how this young man looked, he was stunning. This was because even the spiritual energy giant sword condensed by the fourth sky of the martial saint realm could easily block it. Moreover, no one knew what method this young man used. The giant sword was held up in the air. The position where the young man was standing was not on the same line of balance as the giant sword. It did not seem like the young man had attacked at all. The voice came out of the young man's mouth, but no one knew the change in the young man's expression. However, his voice was cold, as if it came from the underworld. The young man's hands that were behind his back hung down. One of his hands flicked the air, and the huge sword condensed from spiritual energy quickly dissipated. Puffed. The white-haired old man's attack was destroyed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes revealed a look of fear. This masked young man was too mysterious and terrifying. His methods were shocking and simply unimaginable. "Who are you?" The white-haired old man did not show any signs of anger when he heard the young man call him trash. However, all the martialists in the city were shocked. A martial saint was actually called trash. What kind of concept was this? If even a martial saint was trash, what else was a genius? You shouldn't have come to this place. You met someone you shouldn't have met, so you can only destroy. The silver-masked youth was naturally Li Lingtian. With his divine sense and the cold ice flames on Heaven Demon King's heaven's startling hammer, he sensed that Heaven Demon King was in danger. At the same time, he also discovered that Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others were in danger. This was the perception of heaven and earth after the five elements Tao intent. No matter how big the city was, he could use his consciousness and perception to control everything. Therefore, he rushed here at the first moment and found out how terrifying the white-haired old man was. When the white-haired old man increased his cultivation, he arrived, but he never showed up. Hearing Martial Saint Ming Luo and Heavenly Demon King's conversation, he was extremely satisfied. It was worth it to have such a subordinate. No matter who you are, if you want to kill me, you have to pay the price. The white-haired old man was terrified. He felt the threat of death when facing this young man. This feeling was like meeting a super expert at the fifth or sixth sky of the Saint Realm. Not daring to be long-winded anymore, he circulated the true essence in his entire body. Ignorant, Li Lingtian snorted coldly as he glared at the white-haired elder. With a wave of his hand, a murderous aura appeared between heaven and earth. A sword ray, with sword momentum, tore through the void and slashed straight at the white-haired old man at an extremely fast speed. Tisk! Puffed! The white-haired old man was still circulating his true essence, but Li Lingtian's moves were unleashed at will. There was no need for him to circulate his cultivation. Naturally, he was extremely fast. However, before the sword light with sword force hit the white-haired old man, a tiny bloody hole appeared between the old man's eyebrows. The white-haired old man also stopped circulating his true essence. His eyes were dull and ashen. Then, a sharp sword light split the white-haired old man in half. In the air, the young man's figure disappeared strangely, coming and going without a trace. In just 10 seconds, the young man appeared strangely to block the giant sword of spiritual energy. He destroyed a fourth heaven martial saint like the white-haired old man with one sword strike and disappeared strangely at the same time. In 10 seconds, a heaven-defying change occurred. However, no one had seen the young man's face from the beginning to the end. They did not know who this young man was. The air quieted down. However, the momentary silence was broken by Martial Saint Ming Luo's attack. Martial Saint Ming Luo's destructive attack landed on the sky above Dongho clan. Countless martial emperors and revered martial artists were killed instantly. He was at the third sky of the Martial Saint realm. He could not defeat a fourth sky expert, but it was easier for him to kill some martial emperors and martial venerables than to kill ants. Dongho family vanished into thin air after the attack. Martial Saint Ming Luo left with the three of them. When they returned to the Li residence, they saw Li Lingtian in the hall. The silver mask on Li Lingtian's face had been removed. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others naturally knew that Li Lingtian had saved them. This subordinate did not do his job well. "Please punish me, young master." The heavenly monster king stepped forward and bowed to Li Lingtian. He half knelt on the ground and dared not raise his head. "Forget it. You can't be blamed for this. Take this pill to treat your injuries. Chu Tianlon, go back and settle the matters in Nandu County for me. These things shouldn't be a problem for you." Li Lingtian waved his hand and lifted the heavenly monster king up with a wave of his hand. Following that, he flicked a pill and sent it in front of Heaven Demon Monarch. He looked at Chu Tianlon and spoke indifferently. His voice was calm, and there was no change in expression on his face. Chu Tianlon's heart was pounding, and he wondered if Li Lingtian was displeased. However, he could only respectfully bow and leave, and quickly return to Nandu County to deal with the matter. Martial Saint Ming Luo also went out to cultivate and recuperate. After Li Lingtian was done, he returned to the courtyard of the mansion. Tang Qingyue and the others were in the courtyard. They were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian. "I didn't expect your 5 elements will to reach this level. When you unleash the 9 heaven stars, it will be even more terrifying." Huang Fuyan witnessed how Li Lingtian dealt with the white-haired elder's spirit chi giant sword. When Li Lingtian arrived, he unleashed the 5 elements Tao Will and used its mystical power to hold the giant sword before destroying it. Outsiders might not know what Li Lingtian had done, but Huang Fuyan and the rest knew about it. The 5 elements Tao intent was at perfection, and its power was incomparably magical, surpassing the scope of a martial artist's imagination. However, Li Lingtian had only just mastered it and could not unleash it as he wished. Only when the 5 Tao wills were perfected to the pinnacle would the power be earth-shattering. Chapter 595 Cultivation Plans. Although the 5 elements Tao intent is powerful, I haven't fully grasped it. I can only wait for a period of time to master the 5 elements will of the way and unleash the 9 heaven stars. At that time, I'll be invincible even if I encounter an ordinary martial saint. Li Lingtian replied calmly. He would not feel invincible just because he had killed the white-haired elder who was a martial saint. The white-haired old man was caught off guard when he was killed this time. Moreover, the old man was already injured, so forcefully raising his cultivation violated the laws of heaven and earth. In front of his 5 elements Tao intent, he naturally met his nemesis. Moreover, he had displayed the 5 elements Tao intent, which could be considered as a sneak attack. If he really fought with a third sky martial saint expert, he would not be a match for a martial saint at all. What Ling Tian needs to do now is to increase the 5 elements Dao intent: ice, fire, 9 heavens, and the true dragon body protection. Tang Qingyue's words hit the nail on the head. These were Li Lingtian's most crucial cultivation techniques and his trump cards. Only by improving the strongest move and cultivation method was the king's way. Ice, fire, 9 heavens. I can't level up now. After all, there isn't enough time. Although I've obtained the spiritual ice and the infinite holy flame, I'm not confident in fusing the 2 extreme attributes even if I control the ice, fire, 9 heavens. Moreover, the bottomless abyss is about to be activated. We can't be too hasty. Not only will all our previous efforts go to waste, but our impatience will also affect the cultivation of the ice, fire, 9 heavens. Li Lingtian thought for a moment and calculated the time. The bottomless abyss was about to open. He naturally could not break through in such a short period of time. Breakthrough was to choose the right time, place, and people. Often, a little mistake would affect the breakthrough and even leave behind after effects. Ice, fire, 9 heavens. He had already reached the 3rd heaven, and his power was shocking and powerful. He could only think of a way to break through after the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens was resolved. Oh, right. This time, countless experts from Nandu County have broken through. It should be a great threat to us entering the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens. Shunmei recalled the time when Li Lingtian had achieved a breakthrough. Countless powerhouses had also received the enlightenment of heaven and earth and successfully achieved a breakthrough. Those who did not manage to achieve a breakthrough had their cultivation base improved significantly. Among these powerhouses, there were definitely people who wanted to enter the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens. Therefore, their breakthroughs were no different from raising their opponents by a level. That's fine. To them, advancing a realm is heaven-defying. However, in front of me, no matter how much they advance, it's just like that. They advanced by 1 realm, and so did I. On the contrary, the gap between us has widened. After entering the bottomless abyss, generally speaking, I won't make a move. When the time comes, it'll be up to you. Li Lingtian smiled. He did not intend to obtain any treasures in the bottomless abyss, but he wanted to train Tang Qingyue and the others in the bottomless abyss. Although their cultivation had reached the martial emperor realm, they had never gone through any training, let alone fought with experts. They had not even experienced a great battle. Naturally, they could not go on like this. This time, when they entered the bottomless abyss, he did not make a move. He just needed to hold the fort from the side. If one had to talk about being tempted, it would be the spiritual herbal gardens. As a saint alchemist, he was naturally interested in precious medicinal herbs. Big brother Ling Tian, you really don't have any compassion for women. Can you bear to see us fight against those experts? Xianyuan Yingying was stunned for a moment before she leaned against Li Lingtian's side and spoke pitifully. She looked so pitiful that one could not help but feel pity for her. However, Li Lingtian completely ignored her. If this girl was pitiful, then the world would be filled with pitiful people. The other girls were also amused by Xianyuan Yingying's reaction. To be honest, looking at your delicate appearance, you won't run away when you see your opponent, right? Li Lingtian reached out and pinched Xianyuan Yingying's face as he smiled faintly.
He was really worried about them.
After all, those who entered the bottomless abyss were all experts above the martial emperor realm. Moreover, they were all old foxes who had been around for decades or centuries. They were not people that Tang Ziming and the others could deal with. In the divine martial continent, apart from heaven-defying strength and cultivation, one also needed rich experience. Rich experience could only be obtained through the experience of blood and fire. Otherwise, it was impossible to obtain such rich experience. For martial artists of the same strength, one was a fledgling, while the other was experienced. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Usually, a low-level warrior who came out of the battlefield would rely on experience and killing to kill a high-level warrior. However, he had also thought about it. He would bring Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others to the bottomless abyss this time. This way, he could ensure more safety. I won't. Xianyuan Yingying pouted when she heard Li Lingtian's words. She tugged at Li Lingtian's hand and shook it coquettishly. Li Lingtian's face was filled with unwillingness, causing him to feel a wave of regret. He could not afford to provoke this little girl so easily. Right, should we go to the bottomless abyss first and wait? Huang Fuyuyan said with a smile. During this period of time, she rarely went out of the mansion. It was also a little boring. If she went out to play, she could relax the tension brought about by cultivation. Yeah, there's not much time left anyway. Let's go to the entrance of the bottomless abyss and wait. However, we still have to go to the county city and prepare some daily necessities. Tang Qinghua said. They were girls. Even if they were martial artists, they had to prepare many things to survive in the wild. For example, clothes and blankets. Girls definitely couldn't lack them. Li Lingtian's interest was piqued by their words, and he nodded in agreement. Then, the group left the mansion and put on some makeup to hide their peerless grace. This way, they would not be too eye-catching. However, even if they hid their peerless looks and grace, they could not hide their stunning temperament. A group of beautiful girls surrounding a young man like Li Lingtian was eye-catching no matter where they were. However, during this period of time, shocking changes had occurred in Nandu County City. No one dared to easily cause trouble. Furthermore, judging from the temperament of Li Lingtian and the others, they were not simple people. Countless people were envious of them, but none of them came looking for trouble. Just like before, the group of girls went to the front to pick out their favorite items while Li Lingtian paid the spiritual stones from behind. Although some shops could bid wildly when they saw this, because so many girls were buying things together, and it was the man who paid the spirit stones, the men would not bargain for the sake of their face. However, the items Tang Qingyue and the others chose were not expensive. To Li Lingtian, these spiritual stones were nothing. After strolling around for half a day, Li Lingtian was finally liberated when the group of girls decided to go home. Dragging his tired body back to the mansion, Li Lingtian did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw the group of excited girls. Spiritual stones were not a big deal. After spending a day, he would only be able to spend more than 2 million. To him, it was almost a drop in the ocean. However, after shopping for half a day, he really could not take it. He had to admit that no matter how heaven-defying he was definitely no match for girls when it came to shopping. She also understood that men were inferior to girls in some ways. After returning to the mansion, the group of girls hurriedly washed the beautiful clothes they had bought and left them to cool by the garden in the mansion. Instantly, the entire garden was filled with colorful clothes. Li Lingtian felt that the yin was strong and the yang was weak. They were all a group of beautiful girls, but he had become the green among the flowers. He sat cross-legged and began to meditate to recover his strength. However, 2 hours had passed, and his stamina had indeed recovered. However, just as he regained his stamina, a group of girls dragged Li Lingtian to the depths of the mansion. Qingping helped Li Lingtian move a chair to sit in the middle of the courtyard. Then, the girls passed out the clothes that they had bought and dried, one after another, like butterflies. All kinds of beautiful light clothes were simply tailor-made for them. For a moment, Li Lingtian felt as if he had entered the 9 heavens realm. The girls before him were like the 9 heavens goddess. For more than an hour, each of them had bought a dozen sets of clothes and tried them on once. Li Lingtian was dazzled by the sight. He kept praising them. Indeed, the value of these clothes could only be seen when they were worn by Tang Qingyue and the others. A faint smile appeared on his face. These beautiful women were all his. How is it?
Pretty, right?
Tang Ziming came to Li Lingtian's side in a beautiful dress. She twirled her clothes with her slender hands and posed beautifully as she asked with a smile. Very good, very good. These clothes can only show their value on you. Li Lingtian spoke earnestly and sincerely from the bottom of his heart. Tang Ziming and the rest were indeed peerless beauties. I bought quite a lot today. During this period of time, it's enough for us to go to the bottomless abyss. Huang Fuyuyan and the others came to Li Lingtian's side and surrounded him. The fragrance wafted into Li Lingtian's nose, and he almost got carried away. Then let's rest in the mansion for the night. Tomorrow, we'll go to the bottomless abyss. It took Li Lingtian a while to react. His dazed expression made the girls laugh happily because Li Lingtian's actions proved their beauty and charm. Yes, I'll have a good rest today. After that, they returned to their rooms to rest. After all, going to the bottomless abyss would mean facing any challenges and dangers. Now that they finally had a peaceful day, they naturally had to rest well. That night, Qingping and Qingling lay beside Li Lingtian. However, the two ladies did not do anything as they stuck close to Li Lingtian. During this period of time, Qingping was no longer as shy as she was at the beginning. Instead, she was infatuated. Nevertheless, she knew her place. Knowing her identity, she only needed to quietly follow Li Lingtian. Chapter 596. Settling Down. At the edge of the boundless ocean, a spaceship flew quickly toward the center of the ocean. On the spaceship, Li Lingtian, Tang Qingyue, and the others were enjoying the scenery by the sea and the surging waters. This time, Li Lingtian and the others had prepared quite a bit for their trip to the bottomless abyss after leaving Nandu County. Seeing that the bottomless abyss was about to open in 10 days, Li Lingtian and the rest did not delay any longer and flew toward the island. Big brother, did you get the bottomless abyss wrong? 1 foot Ge tugged at Li Lingtian's shirt with a happy expression on her face. He had been staying in the mansion for a long time and was a little tired of it. Now that he came out, he was naturally in a good mood. A powerhouse like Li Lingtian would never lose his way, yet Ge had to tease him like this. You've learned from them. Even Big Brother is here to tease you. Li Lingtian smiled as he caressed Ji Yi's silky hair. Her silky hair was draped behind her back, making her look extremely adorable. As he spoke, he pointed at Tang Ziming, Xianyuan Yingying, and Little White. The three of them were the most lively and mischievous. If he wanted to say that they were bad, he would have to follow them. Big Brother Lingtian, how did you learn from us? Ji Yi was always like this. Tang Ziming did not give in and immediately acted coquettishly with Li Lingtian. For a moment, the group of girls laughed. Right, Lingtian, there are countless powerhouses who came to the bottomless abyss this time. Should we return to the Divine Dragon Ring first? Tang Qingyue asked Li Lingtian as she thought of the most important thing. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Li Lingtian. The experts who came here were all existences above the martial emperor realm. Their group did not have much experience. If others saw such a large group of beautiful women together, they would definitely be the most dazzling. No need. This time, I will push you out and let the world know of your existence. Let them know that you're my woman. If they dare to provoke me, I'll crush them and make the entire Xian continent disappear. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. As he spoke, he exuded a supreme aura as if he was the ruler of the world. The group of girls were stunned by his domineering aura. In the past, although Li Lingtian was powerful, he kept a low profile and rarely spoke in such a domineering manner. Now, however, Li Lingtian was as powerful as a sharp heavenly sword. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words, the girls were extremely happy. This strong and heaven-defying man was their man. While he was strong and heaven-defying on the outside, he was extremely gentle in front of them. That's great. When the time comes, I'll let them see that Big Brother Lingtian is the true genius and the true powerhouse in this world. Xianyuan Yingying spoke in a sweet voice. Her face was flushed red, and she was extremely happy as she looked at Li Lingtian with admiration. With your cultivation base, even a martial saint wouldn't dare to provoke you. All schemes and plots can be ruthlessly crushed. Xiaobai was also very happy. A strong person should have the personality and demeanor of a strong person. In the past, Li Lingtian had always kept a low profile, but now he had risen to prominence. However, even though he was strong and powerful, he would always think twice before doing anything. Tang Qingyue and the others were speechless when they heard Li Lingtian's words. Li Lingtian had his reasons for making such arrangements. As his woman, she naturally had to support him silently. The spaceship was flying at high speed. From time to time, they would bump into a spaceship headed toward the bottomless abyss. When they saw Li Lingtian, they were all shocked and envious. Greed was more of it. In the divine martial continent, the strong pursued nothing but status, power, money, and women. Li Lingtian was surrounded by peerless beauties, and there was a large group of them at that. Naturally, it attracted the greed and jealousy of the other powerhouses. However, they did not dare to cause trouble easily. After all, they were heading to the bottomless abyss this time. Before they obtained any treasures, they did not want to cause trouble. Moreover, these beauties were all peerless beauties. Each of them was a rare beauty in the divine martial continent. One of them was already stunning. Now that a large group of them had gathered together, it was definitely not that simple. The ship flew quickly in the boundless sea, but it felt boring after a long time. However, Li Lingtian and the others gathered together and chatted about their past. They listened attentively as they were alarmed by Li Lingtian's encounter. Every time Li Lingtian encountered a situation, he had a slim chance of survival and had walked out from the brink of death. Although they had heard Li Lingtian mention it before, it sounded different now that he repeated it. This was because what used to be a story was now a life and a legend. It was something that Li Lingtian had encountered and experienced in the past decade. Although the girls by Li Lingtian's side had been following him for a long time, none of them had been with him from the beginning to the end. They either separated halfway or missed the opportunity. Now that Li Lingtian had recounted everything, the girls were excited and worried. Heaven has bestowed a great responsibility on him. Lingtian has gone through so many hardships to obtain such heaven-defying strength. Every single bit of strength has to be obtained through countless hardships. Big Brother's luck is very good, but this is something that only someone with guts and courage can achieve. Big Brother Lingtian's heaven-defying abilities are directly proportional to your hard work. All of a sudden, the girls revealed their motherly gentleness. They knew that Li Lingtian had gone through countless hardships in the past decade, but they did not expect him to go through so many trials of death. Li Lingtian felt warm and happy when he saw the girls' expressions. As they chatted, time passed unknowingly. At the same time, the spaceship arrived in front of the island in the bottomless abyss. The last time she came here, Little White had also been here. Naturally, she remembered the location. Without any mistakes, she finally arrived on the island. When they arrived, there were already countless experts gathered on this island. When Li Lingtian and the others arrived on the island, they attracted the attention of countless powerhouses. The main reason was because of a group of peerless beauties. Moreover, these beauties were surrounding a young man. This was the biggest highlight. The group of peerless beauties were all martial emperors, and they were the kind with very deep strength. Women rarely reached the rank of a martial emperor. Only those favored by the heavens had the chance to become a martial emperor. A martial emperor girl was the most attractive to men. A peerless beauty, coupled with a powerful cultivation, was undoubtedly a fatal temptation. Moreover, these beauties were all surrounding a young man. This young man looked like a martial honor. There were also 4 middle-aged men beside him. One look, and one could tell that they were guards. These guards were all martial honors, but in this place, martial honors were nothing. This way, countless martial artists became much bolder. Countless eyes were on Tang Qingyue and the others. Tang Qingyue's icy aura made her look like an icy beauty. Huang Fu Yuyan had a noble temperament. Tang Ziming and Ji Yi were all peerless beauties. They were so beautiful that it made one's heart tremble. In an instant, countless voices of discussion rang out, and they would occasionally look at Li Lingtian and the others' spaceship. Come, let's go down. Li Lingtian did not pay any attention to these so-called powerhouses. A girl who was too beautiful would naturally attract the attention of others. He couldn't control what other people thought of him. Besides, if they were noticed by these powerhouses, it would prove that Tang Qingyue and the others were outstanding. As long as he did not provoke Tang Qingyue and the others, Li Lingtian would not mind. Similarly, he could not insult them. If he offended Tang Qingyue and the others, he would be courting death.
Yes.
Tang Qingyue and the others glanced at the experts on the island and nodded. Then, the spaceship stopped and landed on the island. On the other hand, Marshal Saint Ming Luo was looking for a place to settle down. After all, Li Lingtian had too many womenfolk by his side, so he could not stay in the open. The island wasn't big. It was only 50 miles in radius. There were already hundreds of experts on it. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to find an uninhabited cave. Sir, we want this place. You guys leave. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's eyes were cold as she looked at the dozen experts in front of a valley and said indifferently. After saying that, he threw out a high-grade heaven artifact. He would exchange this heaven artifact for this place. To Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others, they would take whatever they had to take as long as it was necessary because it was what Li Lingtian needed. Besides, they didn't lack spirit stones and treasures. A high-grade celestial artifact is too little. Besides, we came here first. Do you want to snatch it by force? A 7th-level martial honored realm expert looked at the upper-grade celestial weapon in his hand. This celestial weapon was much more powerful than the mid-grade celestial weapon he used before. However, seeing Marshal Saint Ming Luo use an upper-grade celestial weapon, he naturally wouldn't let it go so easily. He wouldn't give it up until he got more benefits. Greed is only courting death. I'll give you 3 seconds to leave. Otherwise, Marshal Saint Ming Luo saw Li Lingtian and the others coming from behind. If she could not even handle this matter, she would not have the face to follow Li Lingtian. After saying that, a terrifying aura emanated from his entire body. His eyes were like sharp swords as he stared at the dozen or so experts. The other party was a Supreme Realm expert. On the surface, their strength and cultivation were much stronger than Marshal Saint Ming Luo's. You're courting death. The 7th-level martial honored realm expert was furious when he saw Marshal Saint Ming Luo being so arrogant. His side was a martial honored realm expert, and he was a 7th-level martial honored realm expert. If he retreated just like that, what face would he have? The vital essence in his entire body revolved, and an aura burst out. A terrifying Supreme Realm aura pressed down on Marshal Saint Ming Luo. In front of this aura, the dozen or so experts smiled as if they had seen Marshal Saint Ming Luo being killed. However, the moment their smiles appeared, they turned ashen. That was because the aura of a 7th-level Supreme Realm expert was like a clay ox entering the sea when it bombarded the other party. It disappeared without a trace. Moreover, the other party's terrifying pressure directly crushed towards them. This pressure made them unable to resist at all. Chapter 597. Gathering of Experts. Marshal Saint. More than 10 Supreme Realm experts exclaimed. They were all in the Martial Honored Realm. Although they had never dealt with a Martial Saint, they had seen the pressure of a Martial Saint. This powerhouse in front of him, this pressure and aura, was something that only a Martial Saint powerhouse could possess. No wonder he was so arrogant. It turned out that he was a Martial Saint expert who had hidden his cultivation. You can leave, but he wants to stay. Watch your mouth, or else. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's eyes were cold as she increased her pressure. The destructive pressure pressed the 7th-level Supreme Realm expert to the ground. Instantly, the 7th-level Supreme Realm expert's eyes were filled with fear and finally turned into ashes. At this time, the 7th-level Supreme Realm was already dead. More than 10 Supreme Realm experts were all extremely shocked. A 7th-level Supreme Realm expert was actually killed by a pressure. How could they not be afraid? Instantly, their bodies began to tremble. However, Marshal Saint Ming Luo withdrew her pressure at this moment. She glanced at the dozen revered martial artists with a sharp gaze and said indifferently, "I will definitely not speak nonsense. Junior will take his leave first. Thank you for showing mercy, Senior. All of a sudden, more than 10 revered martial artists sat on the ground. After hearing Marshal Saint Ming Luo's words, they ran away quickly, as if they had been pardoned. By the time they left, Li Lingtian and the others had arrived. He completely ignored these martial artists who were like stray dogs. This was because this world was a world where the strong reigned supreme. If their forces were strong, Marshal Saint Ming Luo would not have chased them away. He came to the front of the canyon and scanned it with his divine sense. This canyon was only 1 mile long and 20 meters wide. The canyon was nothing more than 2 precipices. Li Lingtian scanned the area with his divine perception and found it safe. He then moved his body and cast a series of formations. The place had become a safe place. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 3 were meditating in front of the canyon. Li Lingtian and the rest entered the canyon to rest. A restriction was cast, and the canyon disappeared. This canyon is really not bad. It's just nice for us to rest here for a while. Tang Qingyue's cold aura disappeared, replaced by a gentle aura. She held Li Lingtian's arm with her jade-like hands and walked inside. The other girls were also elated as they looked around. After staying in the mansion for a long time, living outside really had a different flavor. I won't be staying for long, because the bottomless abyss is about to appear, Huang Fuyuyan said. When she left the mansion, there was still half a month before the bottomless abyss opened. However, she had spent a few days on the flying ship. Naturally, he didn't have much time to stay here. Moreover, there was no pattern to the opening of the bottomless abyss. It was normal for it to open for 10 days. Then rest well for a few days. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to rest after entering the bottomless abyss. Ji said with a smile. Following that, Li Lingtian cast restriction spells in the canyon. For an array master like him, he could use arrays to create countless rooms even in an empty space. It was no different from the real world. In fact, it was not a problem to not cast a restriction in this place. After all, everyone here was close to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was the only man here, and there were no outsiders. Soon, more than 10 rooms appeared. Although they were created by restrictions, it was still safe to live in. When you enter the bottomless abyss, enter the divine dragon ring first. You can come out when you're in the abyss. But this time, you'll be divided into 2 groups and take turns every day. In this way, you should be almost done with your training in half a year. In this case, with Long Da and the rest of us holding the line for you, you can truly experience the battle and discover the experience and danger. After staying in the canyon for 5 to 6 days, the girls were extremely happy. The fresh air and spiritual energy made people's hearts flutter. However, the good days were not long because the bottomless abyss was about to open. With Li Lingtian's cultivation base, his powerful array Dao, and his perception of the heaven and earth 5 elements formation, he naturally knew that there was movement in the bottomless abyss, and the time to activate it was just around the corner. Li Lingtian gathered the girls together and spoke in a serious tone. There were a total of 11 girls by his side, including the maids. He naturally could not protect 11 girls well. If they were to rotate in 2 batches, it would be another matter. With the 5 girls outside, Li Lingtian's strength and Long Da's group of 4 would not pose much of a threat, even if they were to encounter a martial saint powerhouse. Therefore, he told them his plan. After he finished speaking, he looked at Huang Fuyuyan and the others. Among his wives, Huang Fuyuyan and Tang Qingyue were the main ones. It was not that Li Lingtian was biased towards the 2 of them, but their experience, knowledge, and general knowledge were broader. When dealing with matters, he was more aware of the big picture and had a better grasp of the overall situation. This would save Li Lingtian a lot of trouble. Yes, your arrangement is very good. That's right. We'll split into 2 groups. When the time comes, we'll distribute them according to the strength of our cultivation. This way, when the strength is strong, you can also control some of the rhythm. If the strength is weak, you can directly kill the experts when you encounter them. Huang Fuyuyan and Tang Qingyue nodded in agreement with Li Lingtian's plan. Big Brother Ling Tian's plan is the best. We'll distribute it according to our cultivation level later.
Tang Ziming said, happily.
Although they were all martial emperors, they had never really fought with an enemy and had no chance to do so. Now that they had the opportunity to gain experience, they could improve their knowledge and experience. This was an opportunity that could only be met by luck, because other martial artists' experiential learning would bring about life-threatening dangers. Even if they were to experience danger, with a super expert by their side, the danger would be greatly reduced. Husband, I'm afraid it's not good to train like this, because with you by our side, we all know that the danger is not great. Without the experience of blood and fire, we can't truly grow strong. Shun Mei pointed out the disadvantages of the experience training. Although the experience training in the bottomless abyss could increase one's knowledge and gain countless combat experience, it could not grow like Li Lingtian. After Shun Mei finished speaking, the group of girls turned to look at Li Lingtian. What Shun Mei said made sense, and was a crucial point. I understand, but this time I have a plan. As long as you fight to a certain extent, I will be satisfied. In the future, the place where you will truly train will not be here. There are many other places where you can train. When that time comes, you will be able to truly grow stronger. Li Lingtian was aware of this logic, but he had already made up his mind. No matter what kind of experience it was, there was always a process. People would slowly improve and grow. After this experience, Tang Qingyue and the others had generally improved. When the time came, they would go to other places to experience and truly grow. In the future, there would still be many places to train, such as the spiritual herbal gardens, Lord Nandan, Qingxian, and even the wars between the various countries, the chess games between the kingdoms, and finally the hegemony of the empires. All of these would require a process. This was a long and arduous journey, but it was also a great journey. It's fine as long as you have arrangements. There are still many places to train in the future. When the time comes, we will definitely be able to become true martial artists. Huang Fuyuyan nodded. She understood what Li Lingtian wanted to do. If he wanted to gain a foothold in Xianzhou, he had to conquer Xianzhou and make Xianzhou tremble under his feet. All right, you guys go back to the Divine Dragon Ring first. It seems that there will be some movement in the bottomless abyss today. I'll be enough by then. Li Lingtian furrowed his brows as he spoke indifferently. He had already sensed the fluctuation in the space. This fluctuation came from the heaven and earth 5 elements formation. In other words, the bottomless abyss was about to open. When the time came, he would have to deal with all the experts. He naturally could not divert his attention to Tang Qingyue and the others. Moreover, at this time the experts had gathered. He could not let them be exposed. All right, we'll arrange it in the Divine Dragon Ring. We'll let you know when it's done. Tang Qingyue nodded and retracted her aura. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness, and the Divine Dragon Ring was activated. Tang Qingyue and the rest disappeared and entered the Divine Dragon Ring. After he was done, a comforting smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face. As he walked out of the canyon, Long Da and the other 3 were already waiting for him. When they saw Li Lingtian, they bowed respectfully. Young master, the experts who should have come have basically arrived. There are more than 700 martial monarchs, 800 martial honors, 500 martial emperors, and quite a few 8th or 9th heavenly layer martial emperors. We've discovered 7 martial saints, but 2 of them are hidden. We can't tell their cultivation level for a while. Ying's strength is terrifying. As for the powerhouses behind us, there should still be martial saints and super martial emperors. The powerhouses on General Long's island secretly did a head count and gave Li Lingtian a rough estimate. Martial emperors and martial supremacies were not in their sights at all. Their goal was to focus on martial saints. The only ones who could really affect them were martial saints. 7 martial saints, plus the 2 who are hiding their cultivation. That makes 9. There should be quite a number of super experts coming later. These experts all like to arrive at the last moment. When you go in, enter the Divine Dragon Ring. That way, we won't separate. After they separate, we'll kill them all one by one. Li Lingtian's eyes were filled with killing intent. There were no martial saints in Nandu County, and neither was there a martial saint in Qingxian. Even if there were a martial saint powerhouse, they were the pillars of the country and would not come here. Since he wasn't a martial saint from Qingxian or Nandu County, he would be an enemy in the future. If he was an enemy, he would have to kill him when he had the chance to, so as to avoid any future troubles. If they could subdue it, then so be it. That way, they could increase their strength. He had already started to plan what he would do after entering the abyss. Although it was dangerous this time, it was a good opportunity. Chapter 598. Powerful 1. We understand. Long Da and the other three bowed respectfully. They were impressed by Li Lingtian's arrangement. In any case, he was going to offend all the experts this time, so he naturally wouldn't hide anything. Moreover, everyone would be wary of Li Lingtian in this way. It would be much easier for Li Lingtian to do things then. Now leave two outside. Of course, these people won't accept it. If they don't accept it, kill them all. We can make an exception for those in Nandu County. Li Lingtian said calmly as he looked into the void. The heaven and earth five elements formation senses were getting stronger, and the entrance to the bottomless abyss would soon appear. He had to do something first in case he was too late. Soon, Long Da and the others had made the arrangements. Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Ming Luo entered the Divine Dragon Ring. After all, when they were in Nandu County, they had attracted the attention of many experts when they wiped out Dongho clan. The two of them were also quite eye-catching outside. Similarly, their appearance would definitely expose his identity. He did not want to expose his identity in the bottomless abyss for the time being. Therefore, Long Da and Martial Saint Yunhao were outside. Although Long Da was only at level 7, he had terrifying dragon energy and demonic power. He was not afraid even when facing a martial saint. Martial Saint Yunhao was also a third firmament martial saint. With Li Lingtian's guidance, his strength was extremely terrifying. Li Lingtian also gave them a few heaven-grade mystical powers. After that, Li Lingtian put Martial Saint Ming Luo and the Heavenly Demon King into the Divine Dragon Ring before leaving the canyon with Martial Saint Long Da and Martial Saint Yunhao. They headed toward the place where the powerhouses gathered outside. The entire island wasn't big, but there were more than 2,000 experts gathered there. All of them were super experts. Those who could come here were all existences above the martial monarch realm. Moreover, there were martial venerables, martial emperors, and even martial saints. These experts were all fighting for the mysterious resources of the bottomless abyss and also wanted to train in the bottomless abyss. The competition this time was no longer a competition between low-level disciples, but a game between super experts. Therefore, the intensity of the competition this time could be imagined. Li Lingtian's arrival attracted the attention of many powerhouses. He was elegant, and his entire body emitted an ethereal aura. That extraordinary temperament attracted the attention of countless experts. Those who could make it here were at least martial emperors. For a young man like Li Lingtian to reach the rank of a martial emperor, he was a heaven-defying monster. In the divine martial continent, although many experts retained their youthful looks, their true age could still be seen with a single glance. Li Lingtian was only 23 or 24 years old, and looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. No one dared to underestimate his temperament and elegance. More importantly, there were two experts beside him. One was tall and mighty, and the other was of medium build, but they gave off a terrifying sense of threat. Li Lingtian arrived at the edge of the island with his hands behind his back, completely ignoring all the powerhouses. He walked through the crowd of experts with a calm expression on his face. A faint smile appeared on his face as he looked at the void. The aura of looking down on the world was unintentionally emitted, and people had to pay attention to it. The bottomless abyss is finally about to open. Li Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked into the void and sensed the message from the heaven and earth five elements formation. All the powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian in confusion. Forget about the martial royal realm powerhouses, because they knew that this young man was not to be trifled with. On the other hand, some martial honors and martial emperors were displeased because Li Lingtian had disregarded all the powerhouses in the world. A martial saint powerhouse disdained to argue with someone like Li Lingtian. It was as if their status would be lowered if they were to argue with Li Lingtian. Pa. At that moment, Longda did not wait for Li Lingtian's instructions. He turned around and clapped his hands. A loud noise was heard in the air, and it attracted the attention of all the powerhouses. All the experts looked at Longda, not knowing what he was going to do. Everyone, my young master doesn't like to be interrupted when he's talking. Remember. Longda said a simple sentence, and then stopped talking. There was a bloodthirsty smile on his face. As soon as Longda finished speaking, it immediately caused countless martial artists to discuss, and their faces were filled with disdain. Who do you think your young master is? Could it be that your young master is the crown prince of the kingdom? Even the crown prince wouldn't be like this.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Ignorant. All of a sudden, all the martial artists felt disdain. If they were to speak to someone like this, no one would dare to talk about it easily. But now Longda was warning all the experts. In this way, all the experts were not afraid anymore. No matter how arrogant the other party was, he would not go against everyone. After all, there were martial emperors and martial saints here. Nandu County, step forward. This bottomless abyss is about to open. I believe that everyone won't waste time, right? Li Lingtian spoke calmly as he glared at all the powerhouses. However, none of the Nandu County powerhouses stepped forward as soon as he finished speaking. None of them knew what Li Lingtian was going to do. Do you think you can stand up just because you say so? The bottomless abyss has opened. What does it have to do with you? Who do you think you are? The bottomless abyss has opened. It has nothing to do with you whether you delay or not. The 3 martial monarchs and 1 martial emperor scoffed after Li Lingtian spoke.
Boom.
Before the 4 experts could finish speaking, their eyes revealed a look of fear and despair. That was because a destructive pressure blasted over. In the face of this pressure, even a martial emperor or martial monarch would not have the slightest intention to resist. They finally understood that the other party was not to be trifled with. They also knew that they were courting death. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even a saint alchemist could not refine a medicine for regret. The destructive pressure came from Yunhao, martial saint. She looked at the 4 experts who were talking with a cold gaze.
Puffed.
The 4 experts spat out blood and did not resist at all. The martial emperors and martial emperors were destroyed. For a moment, the entire island was silent. They were all shocked by this destructive pressure. The martial monarch and martial supremacy were stunned. Even the martial emperor powerhouses were shocked to death. The few martial saint realm experts were also shocked. Even if they could easily kill the experts here, it would not be so easy. He also thought that this middle-aged man was a martial saint expert. Moreover, he was a swift and decisive martial saint. He was completely under the command of that young man. The hearts of all the experts were shocked, and they could not stop thumping. Wasn't this too arrogant? However, no one dared to speak, because the person who spoke would be killed without a word. Not much, because someone had started to greet him. Yes, I like silence. Not bad, continue to maintain it. Li Lingtian replied calmly. His expression was calm, and the smile on his lips remained. He did not care about killing a few martial emperors and martial emperors at all. Instead, he looked at all the experts indifferently. I've already given you a chance, but you didn't grasp it. The entrance to this bottomless abyss is unstable. I took a look, so I spent countless materials and energy to stabilize the entrance. Therefore, if you want to enter, you naturally can't enter for nothing. I don't want to beat around the bush, nor do I want to earn your wealth. If you want to enter safely, you have to make some contributions. You naturally won't ask me to contribute and pay, right? Therefore, a martial emperor can enter at 500 million spiritual stones per person. A martial honor can enter at 1 billion, A martial emperor can enter at 2 billion, and a martial saint can enter at 5 billion. Li Lingtian spoke at an unhurried pace. As he spoke, all the powerhouses understood. This young man had been waiting here for a long time, waiting for them to be fooled. His goal was to obtain spiritual stones. Originally, a martial royal realm expert could fork out hundreds of millions of spiritual stones, but it was not for spiritual stones. However, there were so many experts here. If they gathered all the spirit stones together, it would be a shocking fortune. Why don't you go rob them? Robbery. This bottomless abyss doesn't belong to your family. Why do you have to stabilize the entrance? Even if it's to stabilize the entrance, there's no need for so many spirit stones. Do you want the spiritual stones of a martial emperor or a martial saint? Do you not take all the experts here seriously? After Li Lingtian finished speaking, all the powerhouses held back their words. He was worried that he would be killed like the 4 powerhouses before him. However, after a long time, Li Lingtian smiled and waved his hand to signal for them to speak. All of a sudden, all the martial artists started discussing, feeling extremely aggrieved. This was because when they spoke, they needed the permission of the young man in front of them. After working for decades or centuries, this was the first time they had encountered such a grievance. The martial emperor powerhouse was furious, but he did not dare to speak first. The martial saint powerhouse looked at Li Lingtian with a smile. This bottomless abyss indeed doesn't belong to my family, but the entrance to this bottomless abyss is indeed stable. Now it belongs to my family. If you're unhappy, you can say it. Similarly, you can choose not to enter. If you have the ability, you can enter and exit freely. I won't stop you. Li Lingtian remained smiling as he watched all the powerhouses' discussion. After a while, he made a gesture behind him, and all the warriors shut up immediately. They did not speak anymore, because they knew that Li Lingtian was about to speak. If they were to interrupt Li Lingtian while he was speaking, the consequences were obvious. Longda and Martial Saint Yunhao were extremely happy. They had been waiting for hundreds of years, but they had never imagined the current situation. Their young master was indeed a young master. It was not something that ordinary people could do. This courage, boldness, and strength made all the experts in the world walk within his rules. However, they did not show their joy. Instead, they looked coldly at the powerhouses before them. They were not worried that these powerhouses would deal with Li Lingtian. With Li Lingtian's cultivation base and strength, these people before him were no threat at all. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 599, Fighting a Martial Saint 1. However, let me make it clear first. At the entrance of this bottomless abyss, I will use the heaven and earth 5 elements formation. There is a time limit. Before I enter, this array will not disappear. The time is only half an hour.
Do as you see fit.
Li Lingtian continued to speak indifferently, completely ignoring the unwillingness of the 2,000 powerhouses before him. After saying that, he looked at the void because he could sense that the bottomless abyss was about to open. He had added a heaven and earth 5 elements array in front of the bottomless abyss, so he had to make some preparations. If this bottomless abyss was restricted by his array, it would be over. At that time, he would definitely be attacked by all the experts. He was not afraid of the attacks of these experts, but it was a pity that it was a good training scene. You said 5 billion spirit stones. Could it be that 5 billion spirit stones are stones from the roadside? At this moment, a skinny old man at the second sky of the Martial Saint realm walked out. The skinny old man was extremely skinny and looked as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, the old man's eyes flashed. It was obvious that he was not someone to be trifled with. The old man stopped 100 meters away from Li Lingtian and the others as he spoke calmly. His eyes were fixed on Martial Saint Yunhao. Yun Hao Martial Saint had started to kill the 4 experts with her shocking pressure. In his heart, Yun Hao Martial Saint was the biggest threat. As for Long Da and Li Lingtian, he did not care much about them. What do you want now? Li Lingtian smiled faintly, but did not get angry. Instead, he looked at the old man. He didn't answer the old man's question, but asked a question instead. If he didn't agree, he would beat him up. In this world, the strong are respected. If you want spirit stones, then look at your power. A smile appeared on the skinny old man's face, and his smile became strange and evil. What do you plan to do? Li Lingtian repeated the same sentence with a smile in his eyes. Didn't you stabilize this bottomless abyss? You should have heaven-defying strength. If you can defeat me, I'll pay 5 billion spirit stones. Otherwise, your rule won't be valid. The emaciated elder's gaze shifted from Martial Saint Yun Hao to Li Lingtian. His gaze seemed to be tangible, and there was a strange sense of oppression in the air. None of the powerhouses expected the old man to have his eyes on Li Lingtian. A martial saint powerhouse challenging a martial emperor was something they felt disdain and contempt for. However, no one dared to look down on him at this time. Although the old man was despicable, it was beneficial to them. Moreover, this was a world where the strong were respected. No matter what method he used, it was a manifestation of strength. At that moment, everyone knew that Li Lingtian would lose face if he did not agree. Even if he lost face, he would not agree. After all, a martial emperor and a martial saint were 2 completely different worlds. There was no way to compare them. All of a sudden, the 2,000 powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian with a smile on their faces. With such a gaze, everyone gathered together, and it undoubtedly put pressure on Li Lingtian. They forced Li Lingtian to accept the elder's challenge. If Li Lingtian lost, they would not have to fork out any spiritual stones. The smiles on the faces of all the martial artists were self-evident. There was not a single sound on the island. However, Long Da and Martial Saint Yun Hao were smiling evilly. The old man also noticed the smile. He was stunned and felt that something was wrong. However, he could not tell what was wrong. Don't you think you're very boring? Li Lingtian said calmly as he looked at the skinny old man. He did not expect the old man to be so shameless that he would challenge him in the face of the world's powerhouses. He was utterly shameless. However, he didn't agree to it randomly. Instead, he asked the old man, "In this world, the strong are respected. Since you have established the array, you have to pay a price if you want to get the spirit stones. If you don't dare, just say it." The old man felt relieved when he saw the smiles of the countless experts behind him. The abnormality from before had long disappeared. He did not believe that the young man would dare to fight him, nor did he believe that Li Lingtian and the other 2 would dare to offend all the powerhouses. Putting everything else aside, there were 6 or 7 martial arts saints here. The young man would definitely not dare to do so. "I wouldn't dare," Li Lingtian replied with a smile. It was a matter of a few words, and he did not care about it. Those 2 simple words were like a bomb that exploded. All the warriors were stunned. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be so direct. Did he not care about his dignity? Similarly, they were stunned by Li Lingtian's answer and did not know what to say. "Since you don't dare, then your rules don't have to be established." The skinny old man was also stunned. He did not expect this young man to admit that he did not dare to do so in front of so many experts. Moreover, he said it so easily. His initial strength was in stark contrast to his current cowardice. He felt a wave of disdain in his heart. "That's right. Since you don't dare, don't talk big. This array formation is to stabilize the entrance to the bottomless abyss. This is your own wish. We didn't force it. If you don't dare, then retreat. You still dare to ask for spirit stones? How boring. Spiritual stones are not a problem. If you dare to defeat His Excellency Qing Shao, I'll pay double the amount. Yeah, if I can defeat Qing Shao, I'll pay double the spirit stones." All of a sudden, All the warriors exclaimed loudly when they saw Li Lingtian's aura weakening. In the end, he actually said that he would pay double the spirit stones if he defeated Qing Xiao. The entire island was bustling with activity. Countless experts began to cheer along. Li Lingtian and the other two were still smiling when they saw the powerhouse's expressions. However, they did not speak. After a long time, Li Lingtian chuckled to himself. He had achieved his goal. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Remember what you said, lest you regret it later. Remember, they killed you. Li Lingtian spoke calmly as he looked at all the powerhouses. Then, he turned to look at the void as the signs of the bottomless abyss opening had appeared. He had to resolve this matter in a short period of time to avoid any delays. His gaze was like a sharp sword as he looked at the skinny old man. This skinny old man was the Qing Xiao that all the experts had mentioned. It seemed that this Qing Xiao was quite famous. After saying that, his body disappeared strangely. When he reappeared, he was already in the sky, above the sea realm. He looked at all the experts below and gave off a disdainful aura, as if he was in the world. Li Lingtian's action was a shock to all the powerhouses. He actually dared to fight a martial saint. Was he courting death? However, Li Lingtian gave them the feeling that he had the confidence to defeat a martial saint. Suddenly, they felt an illusion. Swoosh! Qing Xiao did not expect Li Lingtian to agree to a fight with him. It was a stark contrast to his initial refusal. His body floated in the air, forming a balance line with Li Lingtian. The two of them stood 1,000 meters apart, staring at each other from afar. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Qing Xiao was infuriated. Li Lingtian's actions were undoubtedly a provocation and an insult. He could not tolerate it anymore. If he was challenged by a martial emperor, how could he still have the face to survive in the future? A shocking martial saint's pressure and aura burst out, and the entire space instantly shook. The terrifying pressure and destructive aura made countless martial emperors and martial supremes use their cultivation techniques to resist. They were shocked. This was the pressure and aura of a martial saint. All the experts were shocked and admired Qing Xiao in the sky. Qing Xiao's strength has improved a lot. Even I might not be his match. The few martial saint realm experts also secretly compared themselves. They were shocked by Qing Xiao's cultivation. For a moment, the space trembled. The expert did not dare to breathe too loudly and looked at the two people in the air. Compared to Qing Xiao, Li Lingtian's aura was barely discernible. All the warriors looked at Li Lingtian as if he was a dead man. Even a warrior sage's aura could crush Li Lingtian to death, let alone a battle. All right, ignorant trash. Use your strongest attack, lest you regret it later. Li Lingtian said calmly as he secretly circulated his true essence and unleashed the true dragon body barrier. He looked at Qing Xiao. This Qing Xiao was at the second sky of the martial saint realm. He was indeed extremely powerful, but compared to the 7 demon venerables and the white-haired old man, he was on a completely different level. However, he did not dare to be careless. A battle between experts could easily be wiped out. Whoosh, everyone was shocked. He actually called a martial saint trash when facing him. He had seen many arrogant people, but he had never seen such a domineering and arrogant person. What was arrogant? This was arrogant. How dare he be so arrogant in front of a martial saint? Die. Qing Xiao was thoroughly enraged. The pressure and aura from his entire body formed a halo and blasted toward Li Lingtian. The pressure and aura of a martial saint fused, forming a destructive halo. In his heart, only by using the simplest pressure and aura to kill the other party could he dispel the hatred in his heart. In the air, a halo flashed as it charged toward Li Lingtian, regardless of the distance between them. All the experts' hearts trembled. Facing this might and pressure, they could not find any way to resist and lost their consciousness to resist. In their hearts, if they were to stand in Li Lingtian's shoes, they would only be waiting for death. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's shocking aura suddenly exploded like a bomb. At first, there were no signs, but when he used his pressure, it was so sudden that it felt surreal. At the same time, the destructive pressure formed a five-colored halo and fiercely collided with Qing Zhao's pressure. Immediately, the space was torn apart, and strong energy shot in all directions. It was as if the end of the world had arrived in the sky. With his shocking might, all the warriors no longer dared to underestimate Li Lingtian. Instead, they felt fear and dread. This was because Li Lingtian had been concealing his cultivation base all this while. Now that he was unleashing it, it was an earth-shattering existence that could destroy the world. Chapter 600. Merging the Divine Seal and the Heavenly Sword. Boom! The two destructive auras collided, and the space was instantly torn apart. Both Li Lingtian and Qing Zhao retreated rapidly, but Li Lingtian only retreated 100 meters. However, Qing Zhao was pushed back more than 1,000 meters and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. The collision of pressure was a confrontation of strength. Pressure and cultivation were directly proportional. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the pressure. Qing Zhao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, had an earth-shattering pressure. If it was any other time, he could easily kill any martial emperor. However, this time, he met Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's cultivation was only at the fourth firmament martial emperor realm, but he had mastered the five elements will, heaven and earth reincarnation technique, and the true dragon body barrier. The devouring light also consumed the opponent's pressure. With all of this combined, it was really asking for a beating if they were to compete in terms of pressure. Whoosh! With a loud bang, all the experts were shocked. Qing Zhao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, failed to suppress the other party with his terrifying pressure. Instead, he was injured by the other party's pressure. What kind of concept was this? Even if Li Lingtian had displayed his cultivation base, they could not accept the fact that he was a fourth heaven martial emperor who defeated a martial saint with his aura. I didn't want to do it at first, but if I encounter someone who wants to die, I can only reluctantly do it. Li Lingtian had a serious expression on his face as he circulated his true essence to the maximum. The light shield of the true dragon's body barrier protected his body. The heaven and earth reincarnation art balanced the five elements will. Suddenly, the shocking destruction metal will was unleashed. The will of the golden path was for destruction. Between heaven and earth, the will of the great path was rampant. All the experts felt the aura of death. Their eyes were filled with fear as they watched the metal will of the way in the sky. They did not expect Li Lingtian to have mastered the metal will of the way. Good, very good. Then try my great samsara, divine seal. Heaven and earth reincarnate, and all things are destroyed. Great samsara, divine seal. Qing Zhao was extremely shocked and also showed a trace of fear. The young man in front of him was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. The cultivation of a martial monarch realm expert was actually so terrifying. He was a martial saint, so he naturally understood how terrifying the pressure was. In terms of pressure, the other party had completely defeated his martial saint's pressure. This young man could not be underestimated. Immediately, he did not dare to underestimate it anymore. Instead, he circulated the true essence in his entire body to the limit. With the flipping of spells, the aura of space also changed. All the experts looked at the sky in shock. The martial saints used super heaven-grade divine powers that were almost equivalent to forbidden techniques. They hurriedly retreated to the other end of the island and circulated their true essence to resist the threat from the outside. In the air, a huge handprint formed. The handprint was over 100 meters in size, floating in the air like the might of the heavens. The sea and the island trembled under the handprint. Killing intent also appeared in Qing Zhao's eyes. He was extremely satisfied with his great rebirth divine seal. At the same time, he was furious. He did not expect a martial emperor youth to force him to use his strongest trump card. The Grand Reincarnation Divine Seal followed Qing Zhao's magic art and struck Li Lingtian in the distance. Wherever the divine print passed, the entire space seemed to melt and shatter inch by inch. All the powerhouses were looking at the deity's mark and Li Lingtian, who was standing in the distance. Now, they no longer looked down on Li Lingtian. Even though Li Lingtian was only a martial supreme, his initial pressure was terrifying, and he had once defeated a martial saint. Now that they had witnessed the mark's attack on Li Lingtian, they wanted to see who was more powerful. They wanted to see how Li Lingtian could dodge and escape. Heaven's Sword Unity. Li Lingtian looked at the Grand Reincarnation Divine Seal with a serious gaze. This great Samsara Divine Seal had a trace of the trajectory of heaven and earth, and it was similar to the Heaven Flipping Seal. It just didn't have the will of the earth, so it didn't display the power of the great Samsara Divine Seal. He already had a plan in his mind. He would snatch this great Samsara Divine Seal. When the time came, he would comprehend it properly. Perhaps he could fuse it with the Heaven Flipping Seal and form a destructive almighty technique. With the will of the 5 elements, any move could be transformed into something magical. After seeing the other party's move clearly, he also understood that the other party would not change his move. The true essence that had been circulating in his body was mobilized. With a move of his divine sense, the Tianyu's sword appeared in his hand. Then, a shocking sword intent spread out and wreaked havoc in the air. Li Lingtian was like a sharp sword standing proudly between heaven and earth. All the powerhouses could feel the destructive sword will. He was shocked. An expert who could cultivate sword intent was impressive. The Tianyu's sword spun, and a shocking sword light appeared. The sword light was 2 meters long, and it tore through space with a destructive aura. Li Lingtian's figure flashed, and he disappeared as if he had merged with the sword radiance. The destructive sword light slashed at the great Samsara Divine Seal with sword power. In space, 2 extremely destructive attacks tore through the air.
Boom.
With a shocking explosion, the sword light and the Divine Seal finally collided. The Great Reincarnation Divine Seal was known as a super, heaven-grade divine power. When it was used by a martial saint, it was simply devastating. Heavenly Sword Unity was a mighty figure technique that surpassed heaven-rank divine powers. It was known as a saint-rank mighty figure divine power. Although he was only a martial monarch realm expert, he had mastered the will of the 5 elements. In addition, his strength was several times stronger than his cultivation realm. Under this attack, it carried the power to destroy the world.
Hiss.
The sound of cloth being torn apart could be heard. The 100-meter-wide Great Samsara Divine Seal was torn open by the sword light of the Heaven Sword Unity. The sword ray pierced through the middle of the Divine Seal with a destructive sword aura and slashed at Qing Zhao's body. At this moment, Qing Zhao did not have the slightest chance to resist. His eyes were filled with despair.
Tisk.
The sword light pierced through Qing Zhao's body. Qing Zhao floated in the air. The remaining force of the sword light cut through the air and landed on the sea. A chasm appeared in the sea, and shocking seawater soared into the sky. Li Lingtian's figure appeared. The Tianyu's sword in his hand was still spinning like before. However, Li Lingtian's aura had weakened considerably, and his eyes were cold. Ah! With a miserable cry, Qing Zhao's body turned into pieces and, finally, disappeared in the air. A martial saint was killed by a martial emperor in one strike. A storage pouch fell from the sky. Li Lingtian grabbed it with one hand, and the storage pouch returned to his hand. All the experts were startled awake at this time. Other than shock, there was still shock in their eyes. Moreover, there was more fear and dread. A martial supreme had killed a martial saint powerhouse with one move. What kind of concept was that? This sword strike was engraved in the hearts of all the experts. It would never be able to erase the charm of this sword strike. Hush, all the experts gasped. Even martial emperors and martial saints gasped. They knew how terrifying martial saints were, but such a terrifying existence was actually killed in one strike. Such a thing was even more terrifying. Now, this young man in front of him was completely a death god. Li Lingtian landed and swept his cold gaze across all the powerhouses. Wherever his gaze passed, all the powerhouses lowered their heads and dared not look Li Lingtian in the eye. Double the spirit stones, yes, Li Lingtian said calmly after he had finished looking at the powerhouses. After saying that, he began to meditate and regulate his breathing. There was still a little time left, so he took advantage of this time to recover his consumed true essence. While he was meditating and resting, Longda had already begun collecting spirit stones. Now, the number of spirit stones had doubled. 1 billion for martial emperors, 2 billion for martial honors, 4 billion for martial emperors, and 10 billion for martial saints. Instantly, Longda's face revealed an excited smile. Looking at the large number of spirit stones entering his storage bag, his heart was filled with joy. After all, these powerhouses were the overlords of their respective regions. However, they could only offer their wealth in front of Li Lingtian. Naturally, they did not expect Li Lingtian, a martial emperor, to be a martial emperor powerhouse. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be able to kill a martial saint in one move. Now that he had paid double the spiritual stones, he could only admit defeat. The main thing was that Li Lingtian was not someone to be trifled with. Although Martial Saint Yunhao was excited and wanted to collect the spiritual stones, he understood that Li Lingtian's safety was more important. Although no one dared to provoke Li Lingtian at this time, he did not dare to be careless in case someone ambushed Li Lingtian. That would be the end of him. After a full 20 minutes, all the experts had handed in their spirit stones. At this moment, Longda calculated that there were 763 martial royal realm experts. Each of them had 1 billion, which was 763 billion. There were 821 martial honors. Each of them had 2 billion, which was 1,642 billion in total. There were 527 martial emperor powerhouses, and each of them had 4 billion, which was 210. 8 billion. There were 8 martial saint powerhouses. 10 billion for each person, 80 billion in total. This time, in just 20 minutes, he had collected 3,593 billion spirit stones. The number of spirit stones was shocking, but it had almost plundered all of these experts. Countless experts were greedy. However, when they thought about how Qing Xiao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, was killed in one move, they could only imagine that they had so many spiritual stones. Even if he didn't enter the bottomless abyss, he could still buy countless saint weapons with more than 3 trillion spirit stones. Half an hour later, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and stood up. General Long handed the spirit stone to Li Lingtian, who took it and put it into the divine dragon ring. His eyes were looking at the sky. Although it was not cloudless, it was still very quiet. But now, there was an inexplicable throbbing in the space, giving people an uneasy feeling. Rustle. Rustle. A rustling sound came from the air, but it was unknown where the source was. All the experts revealed excited expressions because the bottomless abyss was about to open. They could also enter the bottomless abyss to search for treasures and resources. They could also leave the dangerous Li Lingtian behind. All the powerhouses thought to themselves that they should never meet this person. After all, in the bottomless abyss, there was no mercy at all. The other party would definitely kill them mercilessly. Chapter 601. Bottomless Abyss. Boom. With a loud explosion, the space seemed to have been blasted open, and the destructive force wreaked havoc. Li Lingtian's eyes revealed a grave expression as he waved his hands continuously. Streams of magic arts were shot into the air. After more than 1,000 incantations, a light shield with a radius of 100 miles appeared in the sky above the sea. The light shield was the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements formation which Li Lingtian had cast some time ago. Upon seeing this magical light shield, All the powerhouses finally believed Li Lingtian's words. This was the five elements formation, and no one could break it. The sea area kept on surging. In the sky, a beam of light came from the nine heavens and directly bombarded the light shield of the heaven and earth five elements formation.
Boom.
The sea area shook, and even the island trembled, as if it was about to sink. This was the might of heaven's might. No matter how powerful humans were, they were incomparably small in front of heaven's might. Li Lingtian's body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. However, he managed to stabilize himself. Heaven and earth five elements formation. Activate. With a light shout, a spell was cast, and the power of the five elements entered the five elements formation. Suddenly, a hole appeared on the light shield. It was pitch black inside, and went straight to the bottom of the sea. No one knew how deep this hole was, or where it led to. Hurry up and go in. You only have 5 minutes. Li Lingtian's hands produced a mystical true essence which was quickly injected into the light shield. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. All the powerhouses knew that Li Lingtian was using his true essence to support the light shield. If they were late, they would not be able to enter. No one hesitated anymore. Their figures flashed, and they quickly flew towards the cave entrance. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Rustle. Waves of air-piercing sounds rang out as countless experts entered in a single file. In the end, they disappeared into the hole in the light barrier, without a trace. As time passed, more than 2,000 martial artists entered the cave. At that moment, Li Lingtian shouted into the void. "The four of you, do you need me to invite you? If you don't want to go in, then I'll go in." Li Lingtian shouted into the air as if he was talking to thin air. However, just as he finished speaking, the air trembled and 4 figures appeared not far away from Li Lingtian. The 4 figures were all martial saints, and their bodies emitted a shocking martial saint aura. Judging from his aura, he was definitely not an ordinary warrior sage powerhouse. Li Lingtian was shocked. After the few martial saint powerhouses appeared, they did not enter the light shield immediately. Instead, they stood not far behind Li Lingtian. Their positions and momentum formed a semi-encirclement. Long De and Martial Saint Yunhao immediately launched a destructive attack because their opponents were extremely powerful. Even if they used their full strength, they might not be able to defeat their opponents. Moreover, there were 4 of them. 4 super martial saints. Under such circumstances, it was definitely not that simple. The 4 of you, before you do anything, think carefully about the consequences. If the 4 of you think that you have the confidence to defeat me, then give it a try. However, I advise you to think about the consequences. Li Lingtian supported the light shield with both hands as sweat trickled down his face. He had also consumed more than half of his true essence. However, he did not show any fear. Instead, he calmly said to the few experts behind him, "If the other party really dared to make a move, then don't blame him for being merciless." Even if it was risky, he had to make the 4 super martial saints day. "Sir is indeed powerful. You actually knew that we were up there. It seems that you already knew." The middle-aged man in red shouted. His fire-type martial soul was extremely violent, and his cultivation base was unfathomable. Even Li Lingtian could not tell what his cultivation base was. "Haha, you guys want to pay 20 billion? Because I don't want to go in anymore. Earning trillions is enough."
There's no need to take the risk.
Li Lingtian burst into laughter. He suddenly let go of the matter and turned around to look at the 4 warrior sage powerhouses. Facing 4 martial art saints, the pressure was immense. However, he could not be at a disadvantage now. If he was at a disadvantage, he would be killed by the 4 martial art saints. The 4 martial saints were obviously stunned when he let go. 20 billion? Why don't you rob them? The middle-aged man in red said angrily. Others were asking for 10 billion, but they were asking for 20 billion. Wasn't this cheating? Initially, they were going to deal with Li Lingtian. However, they did not expect him to let go of his hand. They were not paying attention to him. "I'm robbing. How about it? If you have the ability, then do it." Don't regret it. Li Lingtian channeled his entire body's true essence and activated the devouring light. Instantly, the heaven and earth's spirit chi surged toward him and transformed into true essence. The genuine vitality that was originally consumed instantly recovered to its peak condition. This change immediately shocked the four martial saints. Devour! The four martial saints exclaimed at the same time. With such a physique, it was simply heaven-defying. It could devour the cultivation and consciousness of others, and it could also devour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into true essence. It was simply that true essence would never be exhausted. Li Lingtian's true essence was restored to its peak as he glared coldly at the four martial saint powerhouses. Longda also used the roaring dragon battle halberd in his hand. Martial Saint Yunhao also circulated her vital essence to the extreme. The power of the third sky of the martial saint realm was shocking. As long as he made a move, he would unleash a shocking attack. The trio showed no hesitation or fear in this situation. The four martial saints were confused as they did not know if Li Lingtian and the rest were pretending to be strong, or if they were really strong. Not enough. Then let's have another one. All of you can stay. Li Lingtian looked at the four martial arts saints and knew that they were trying to estimate the current situation. Naturally, he would not let them have their way. With a flick of his divine sense, the space immediately trembled. Heaven Demon Monarch's tall and mighty figure appeared. When he appeared, he was already prepared for battle. This was because Li Lingtian had reminded him to fight back when he was in the Divine Dragon Ring. So it's you? As expected. I was wondering why it was so familiar. The four martial saints were shocked when they saw the Heavenly Demon King's appearance. This was because Li Lingtian's casual words had given rise to another martial saint powerhouse. Moreover, it was a very abnormal martial saint. At the same time, he recognized the Sky Demon King. When he wiped out Dongho family, countless experts in the dark knew about it. Upon seeing the Heavenly Demon King's appearance, they could guess Li Lingtian's identity. The silver-masked youth had wiped out a martial saint with a flick of his finger. His elegance and domineering aura made people feel fearful. Now that they knew that the young man in front of them was the masked young man from last time, the four martial saints were incomparably shocked. 20 billion. Li Lingtian said coldly. Naturally, he understood the other party's intention and recognized his identity. However, at this time, he had no choice but to find an opportunity to eliminate these martial saints in the bottomless abyss. Otherwise, it would not be good if his identity was exposed. All right, 20 billion. Consider me unlucky. The middle-aged man in red did not relax at all when he saw Li Lingtian's group of four. Needless to say, Li Lingtian's situation could only be described as terrifying. When they saw Li Lingtian killing Qing Xiao, they were shocked and wanted to join forces to eliminate Li Lingtian. Now that they knew that Li Lingtian was the silver-masked young man, they were even less confident. They were confident that the four of them could take on one person, but Li Lingtian had three helpers by his side. Moreover, there was at least one powerhouse who had yet to show up. If the other powerhouse were to show up, it would be difficult for them to escape easily, let alone kill Li Lingtian. After all, they had a deep impression of the warrior sage that was wiped out with a snap of their fingers. Apart from Longda, the other three of Li Lingtian's group were watching the other party intently. General Long was only relieved after he kept the spiritual stones handed over by the other party. Following that, Li Lingtian cast a spell, and the heaven and earth five elements formation that was about to dissipate stabilized once again. However, it could be seen that this array formation could not hold on for long because the entrance was slowly disappearing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Four air-piercing sounds rang out. The middle-aged man in red and the other three quickly entered the light barrier and disappeared. Li Lingtian also called Longda and the other two into the Divine Dragon Ring before he disappeared into the cave in a flash. However, when he entered, he used the spatial banner. He had suffered such a loss before, so he did not dare to let his cultivation fall again. If his cultivation fell in the bottomless abyss, he would really be courting death. The moment he entered the bottomless abyss, Li Lingtian felt as if he was submerged in seawater. However, it was not real seawater, but a feeling. This feeling lasted only for a moment. In the blink of an eye, Li Lingtian appeared on an island. The reason why it was called an island was because it was surrounded by an endless sea. At the edge of his divine sense, he found another island. Based on the experience of the powerhouses who had come to the bottomless abyss before, Li Lingtian was certain that this place was the bottomless abyss. Moreover, this place was an independent world. It was an archipelago world, and there were islands of all sizes everywhere. However, there were many dangers up there. There were also countless mysterious resources and treasures, as well as unknown dangers. After Li Lingtian landed, he extended his divine perception and found himself on an island with a radius of 100 miles. There were no demonic beasts or spirit chi on the island, only some ordinary trees. More importantly, there was no moon or sunlight in this place. It was chaotic, but everything could be seen clearly, just like the cloudy days in the world above. Whoosh, whoosh. Li Lingtian's figure flashed as he arrived at the center of the island. He found a more secluded spot to stop before he called out to Longda and the other three martial saints and a rank 7, level 9 Longda, in addition to his cultivation at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm, were considered powerful in this place. The main thing was that the 5 of them did not split up. The other experts were teleported at the same time and could not be together. They were in the Divine Dragon Ring and had been summoned by Li Lingtian. As long as the 5 of them were not too unlucky, they would not encounter a few powerhouses working together. Even if they all joined forces, they could still escape. Flower Drop thanks all the readers for their support. I'm giving out red packets during the new year. Starting from February 10th, 2015, I'll give out red packets ranging from 100 to 500 yuan every night at 8 p.m. Group ID 315772906422751359. You have to join the group to get a red packet. Chapter 602, Beginning the Experience 1. Young Master. After Longda and the other 3 came out, they stood respectfully behind Li Lingtian and waited for his instructions. At the same time, he also looked around. This was the most instinctive reaction of an expert. Let's leave this place first, in case we encounter others at the place where we teleport. I'll take care of it, Li Lingtian said calmly. After that, he flew into the distance. Longda and the other 3 quickly followed behind him. They had their divine perception spread out to cover a 200-mile radius. They would defend Li Lingtian at the first sign of danger. The 5 of them flew for a full hour and came across 3 or 4 small islands, but no one appeared on them. In other words, the place where they were teleported to was relatively remote. In the end, Li Lingtian called Tang Qingyue and the others out after he landed on an uninhabited island. The ones who came out this time were Tang Qingyue, Huang Fuyuyan, Shan Mei Tang Ziming, and Qingling. The 5 of them had relatively good cultivation and had encountered many things, so they naturally went on their first experiential learning. More importantly, they were both Li Lingtian's women. It was more convenient for them to deal with certain matters. Lingtian, is this the bottomless abyss? After Tang Qingyue came out, she looked around curiously, but she didn't find anything. She only knew that this place was an island, and the rest of the place was a boundless sea. Yes, this place is the bottomless abyss. However, this place is rather remote. It should be very far from the real bottomless abyss. You can train here now. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian explained the general situation of the place. Following that, Li Lingtian began to share with them some of his combat experience, as well as some of his cunning opponents' tricks. In fact, Li Lingtian had said this countless times in the past. This time, he mentioned it again to remind them not to forget that in a battle between experts, the slightest negligence would cause the battle to dissipate. All of them were extremely intelligent people and could understand it with just a little bit. It was just that they lacked actual combat experience. Let's fly straight ahead now. At least we won't lose our direction. Huang Fuyuyan snuggled up to Li Lingtian and spoke gently. Yes, there are many experts here. We will fly in one direction, and I believe that we will not encounter many experts. Therefore, it will be of great help to our training. Shun Mei also spoke, agreeing with Huang Fuyuyan's words. All right, then we'll fly forward. Anyway, there's no real target in the bottomless abyss. No one knows the situation here. Let's just try our luck. Li Lingtian nodded and led Tang Qingyue and the others to fly quickly. Long Da and the other three widened the distance and began to spread out in a straight line with Li Lingtian and the others flying in the middle. If they encountered experts above the martial emperor realm, they would kill them immediately. If they encountered martial emperors, they would leave them to Tang Qingyue and the others. Coincidentally, after flying for a full day, they did not meet a single warrior. Instead, they encountered many sea beasts and demon beasts, and there was even a mysterious water monster. As long as they were on the same level as Tang Genji and the others, Li Lingtian, and the rest would not make a move. They would only stand by the side and let Tang Qingyue and the others kill them. Although they were only demonic beasts, killing them like this was also a form of training. However, demonic beasts were much weaker than humans. After all, humans had high intelligence and were more difficult to deal with. The one day was just based on Li Lingtian and the others' senses. However, in the bottomless abyss, there was no day or night. This made them feel uncomfortable. All right, we'll stay here tonight. Li Lingtian told Long Da before he found a cave and moved in. Fortunately, there were still caves where demon beasts and sea beasts lived on these islands. After countless years, these caves were empty. It was the best place for them to live. Long Da's group of 4 split up into 4 directions and hid in some hidden spots on the island. They would attack in secret if a warrior or demonic beast entered, or Li Lingtian and the others would take action. After all, the training was in all aspects. It was not just about killing opponents, demon beasts, and sea beasts, but also dealing with some natural environments. At night, even if they were resting, they had to familiarize themselves with the environment and adapt to the changes. Tonight, although there's no night in this place when we rest, we have to pay attention to the environment here. If we encounter demon beast enemies, we have to respond immediately and make the most appropriate response. In the cave, Li Lingtian spoke in a serious tone. Although he felt sorry for Tang Qingyue and the others and did not want them to suffer, a trial was a trial. It could improve one's cultivation base and increase their experience in dealing with various situations. Hence, he had to be serious and strict. Letting them go was not to love them, but to harm them. Strictly demanding them was not to harm them, but to care for them. Yes, we know. Tang Qingyue and the rest nodded. They understood Li Lingtian's intention and prepared to sleep. However, they were dressed neatly this time. They had to deal with all kinds of dangers at the first moment, so they could not take off their clothes. Li Lingtian was also lying down with his clothes on. He was meditating and resting in the cave. As long as a warrior had cultivation, he would be able to endure it. Even if he did not rest for 10 days or half a month, he would not feel tired. Meditation was the best way to rest. This way, 1 could increase one's cultivation and 2, one could deal with some dangers. Although there was no day or night with their cultivation, they could naturally understand the time of rest and roughly calculate the length of time. 3 hours later, Li Lingtian was meditating with a frown and a smile on his face. Just as he smiled, Huang Fuyuyan was the first to open her eyes, followed by Shun Mei and Tang Qingyue and finally Tang Ziming and Qingling. This was because they could sense that there were experts on the island. Moreover, to them, they could be considered super experts. An 8th-level martial emperor landed on the island. After looking around, he flew toward the cave. Powerhouses who lived in the wilderness naturally knew where to stay. The direction they came from was exactly where Li Lingtian and the others lived. Someone is coming. An 8th-level martial emperor. Huang Fuyuyan's exquisite little face had a smile on it. Although her cultivation was not the highest among the girls, she had the most experience. Otherwise, she would not have sealed her martial saint cultivation and come out to train. His current cultivation was only at the 6th level of the martial emperor realm, but he was very powerful and experienced. Together with his sisters, he did not take the 8th level of the martial emperor realm to heart. However, Tang Ziming and Qingling felt a little nervous. This was because they had never fought with any experts before. This was also their first time, so they were naturally a little nervous. Shunmei, Tang Qingyue, and Huang Fuyuyan had fought before, but not many times. Meng Meng and Qingling, join hands. The three of us will hold the fort. Tang Qingyue said to Tang Ziming and Qingling. For such masters, even if they were all training, they still had to make their own arrangements. Yes. Tang Ziming and Qingling nodded and could not help but look at Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian was meditating and cultivating. His eyes were closed, and he was completely ignoring them. Soon, the two of them understood that Li Lingtian would not care about them as they were training. No matter what they did, they had to figure out a way to do it themselves. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The five of them left the cave and went outside. Li Lingtian had also left the cave the moment they left. He went to a hidden spot and hid himself. With his martial emperor cultivation, his control of space, the thunderclap wings, and the space banner, even martial emperors and martial saints might not be able to notice his movements, let alone martial emperors. After hiding, he saw the experts who had come. They were at the peak of the 8th level of the martial emperor realm. Their cultivation was considered powerful. The silver armor on the martial monarch realm expert made him look like a general on the battlefield. The aura of a martial monarch realm expert was emitted from his entire body, and the space was shaking. At this moment, the martial monarch expert's eyes were filled with a greedy smile because 5 peerless beauties had appeared in front of him. Moreover, the few beauties were only at the 5th or 6th level of the martial emperor realm. Only one of them was at the peak of the 7th level. In the eyes of experts, no matter how high a woman's cultivation was, she was not much of a threat. This was because most of these women's cultivation techniques were very poor and not very powerful. Their main purpose was to maintain their beauty and increase their lifespan. Hee hee, 5 fairies, this one greets you. There is no one on this island. Why don't the 5 fairies follow me? The martial monarch chuckled. His gaze swept across Huang Fuyuyan's proud chest. Then he slowly shifted his gaze to the other girls. His eyes were filled with happiness and greed. Tang Ziming was originally nervous, but now she felt humiliated. She could not hold it in anymore. She circulated the vital essence in her body and attacked the martial royal realm expert in a flash. With her mystic spirit body, her cultivation was extremely profound. She waved the Lingqing sword in her hand, and the pressure of the saint weapon carried a sword light as it charged towards the martial royal realm expert. At the same time, Qingling also waved her ice saint weapon. A wave of icy qi almost froze the space. Li Lingtian shook his head as he watched the two ladies' attacks. This was the first time the girls had fought, and they were still inexperienced. At the very least, they were angered by their opponents. After getting angry, it was inevitable that he would lose his cool. He could only use 60 to 70% of his strength. However, the two women were both smart people. They knew that they had lost the initiative in their anger, but they still took advantage of the saint weapons in their hands and blasted out destructive attacks. Not bad. They're all saint weapons. Hee hee, I'm rich this time. When the martial monarch expert saw the two girls getting angry and attacking without any pattern, he was extremely excited. He knew that the 5 girls were all newbies, so there was no pressure to deal with them at all. After saying that, his figure flashed, and he attacked the two women. His powerful attack directly responded to the two attacks. His speed and accuracy were completely incomparable to Tang Ziming and the others. In the blink of an eye, the three attacks collided. Chapter 603 Grow Through Experience 1.
Boom.
The three attacks collided fiercely, emitting a strong explosion. Tang Ziming and Qingling's figures flashed as they retreated 100 meters to Huangfu Yuyan and the others. The martial monarch realm expert's mouth was stained with blood. This attack was completely caused by Tang Ziming and the other two's saint weapons. He did not gain any advantage. In front of a saint weapon, there was not much difference between a rank 6 martial emperor and a rank 8 martial emperor. Meng, Qingling, pay attention to joining hands. Attack and defend in an orderly manner. Huangfu Yuyan reminded her seriously. After she finished speaking, Tang Ziming and her brother's figures flashed and disappeared in a strange manner.
Boom. Boom.
Suddenly, there was a burst of explosions in the air. Three figures flashed. Tang Ziming and Qingling relied on their powerful and magical movement techniques to quickly flash and attack the martial royal realm expert. Gradually, the two of them grasped a pattern, which was to attack together. The two of them advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. When they attacked, there was a defense around them. As a result, the two of them became more and more familiar with each other, and the pressure of a martial monarch expert increased. Aoki Chikage, Frozen Snow Region. At this moment, two attacks appeared at the same time. The timing was perfect, and they were launched just when the martial monarch expert's old strength had been exhausted and his new strength had yet to be born.
Boom.
Pfft. With a loud explosion, the martial monarch expert's figure was thrown up and finally fell to the ground fiercely. His vitality disappeared, and he could not be any more dead.
Wow.
Yay, we did it! After the two women killed the martial royal realm expert, they were stunned for a moment and immediately became excited. Their small faces were full of smiles, and they looked extremely cute. This was because they had successfully joined forces and killed a rank 8 martial emperor with their cultivation of rank 5 and rank 6. Not bad. My two babies are talented and have good reactions. Pay attention to your composure in the future. In front of your opponent, you have to accept a lot of goading. At that moment, Li Lingtian appeared out of nowhere from the sky. The girls knew that he was watching from outside when they saw his appearance. She felt warm and safe in her heart. Even if it was an experiential learning, her man was always watching over them, worried that they would be in any danger. At the same time, they were extremely happy because this was the first time they had come into direct contact with a powerhouse and had even killed an 8th-level martial emperor. Husband, how are Meng and the others? Big brother Ling Tian, how is it? Are you satisfied? Young master, it felt very natural for us to join forces just now. In the future, after some more experience, I believe that our teamwork will be even more tacit. A few girls approached Li Lingtian and spoke in a coquettish manner, as if they were children who had done something amazing and wanted to be rewarded. Li Lingtian was not the least bit stingy and would not dampen their confidence. With a smile on his face, he praised them all. However, when he praised them, he still mentioned some flaws and things to take note of. They listened attentively because they understood that although they had won once, they might not win every time. There was no second chance for this failure. Failure meant death, so they were all extremely serious and did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. Then, they returned to the cave to rest for a few hours before flying forward. After a day, they encountered several martial monarch powerhouses, as well as Wu Zun and Martial Emperor. Wu Zun and Martial Emperor were all killed by Long Da and the others. However, when they killed, they suppressed their cultivation to the same level as their opponents. Then they slowly demonstrated their moves and battle experience. This way, Tang Qingyue and the others could easily accept it. They would either join forces or kill the martial monarch individually while Li Lingtian and the others held the fort. Wu Zun, Martial Emperor, Long De, and the others attacked. Tang Qingyue and the others watched seriously and gained experience from it. They gained a lot of experience that day. Finally, they found a place to rest and returned to the Divine Dragon Ring. Little White and the others came out of the Divine Dragon Ring feeling extremely happy, but at the same time, they were very nervous. Among the girls, Xiaobai had seen a lot and had experienced a great battle, so she was naturally much more relaxed. Qingping and the others felt nervous. But in the end, he knew that he had to face reality and could only stabilize himself. You must remember, no matter what, don't get angry. Don't be provoked by your opponent. Provoking is the best and easiest method for every expert. Therefore, you have to be careful. Once you are angry, you can only use 0 to 50% of your strength. Moreover, you can't judge calmly. This will become a fatal threat. Li Lingtian said earnestly after Qingping and the others came out. What he was most worried about was that they would lose their rationality and stability. Yes, Qingping and the others nodded. However, Li Lingtian knew that it was not that easy to remain calm. After all, it was his first time fighting against a strong person, and it was a girl. Not to mention girls, even men would be extremely nervous when facing a powerhouse for the first time. Oh right, young master. How is young lady and the others doing? Lu Min looked at Li Lingtian with admiration on her face. When she thought of Qingping and Li Lingtian, she was filled with envy. It was just that she had not had the chance to do so recently, nor did she have a good opportunity to do so. Hence, she could only be envious. Thinking about Tang Qingyue and the others' training, they were all extremely curious. They've trained well. Although they were a little nervous in the beginning, they were still very relaxed when facing strong opponents. Because in the war, either you die or I die. Do you want to die? Li Lingtian told them about Tang Qingyue and the others' results. He did not want Qingping and the others to feel burdened. At the same time, she spoke very seriously and told them the consequences. This way, she could stimulate their potential and stimulate their survival potential. Of course I don't want to die. The girls answered in unison and kept shaking their heads. Subsequently, Li Lingtian asked them to make their own arrangements to see how they would face the powerhouses and how they would team up or attack individually. This time, Ge and Little White had the highest cultivation base. Qingping, Lu Min, and Xiao Xiao had similar cultivation base, but Xianyuan Yingying couldn't participate in the experiential learning. However, she was able to watch the other sisters fight. This way, she could also learn a lot of experience. Similarly, Xianyuan Yingying could not blame Li Lingtian.
She could only feel shy.
After all, if she wanted to achieve a breakthrough, she would have to become a couple with Li Lingtian. How could a girl like her feel embarrassed about this? Following that, Li Lingtian wanted to treat Tang Qingyue and the others the same way. He wanted them to pay attention during their break. Moreover, Li Lingtian had no intention of fighting when he encountered a powerhouse. In this way, the girls knew that they had to rely on themselves to deal with the strong. Under such circumstances, they would all have their instinctive potential to be unleashed. A month had passed. During the month, Tang Qingyue and the others took turns every day, so they had gained a lot of experience. In their hands, each of them had killed a few martial royal realm experts. Now, it seemed that they all carried a trace of powerful aura and aura. This was unique to martial artists. Only martial artists who had truly gone through experience would have this. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with their results. Gradually, they learned how to face martial emperors alone, experts of the same level, and even experts of a higher level. After a month of experience, they had all improved tremendously. Li Lingtian was very satisfied with their improvement. Similarly, during this month, they obtained countless treasures and medicinal herbs, as well as the inner cores of some demon beasts and sea beasts. Yes, this island is not small. We have encountered more and more experts during this period of time. I think we have chosen the right direction. Huang Fuyuyan and the others stood beside Li Lingtian as they sized up the island before them. This island was not small. There were mountains on it, and the environment was very good. It was suitable for resting. During this period of time, they had been training and killing demon beasts and sea beasts. They had obtained a lot of resources and gained experience. Naturally, they were in a good mood. Yeah, a month has passed. We'll rest here for a few days and then make plans. Li Lingtian nodded as he replied calmly, with a smile on his face. After that, the group walked toward the mountain peak. This time, Tang Qingwei and the other 11 girls all came out. They were all extremely happy. Even if they were to face a martial emperor who was 1 or 2 levels higher than them, they could still kill the other party alone and have the capital to protect themselves. Longda and the other 3 naturally began to search and assess the safety of this island. Oh, that's great. Let's rest well for a few days. During this period of time, my killing intent is getting stronger and stronger. I have to restrain myself. Tang Ziming said in a sweet voice. Her face was filled with excitement. Although she had to train, she understood that her biggest responsibility was to take care of Li Lingtian and be a good wife to him. After that, the group settled down on the mountain peak and found a few good caves. Li Lingtian cast a few restrictions on the top. Since he was resting, he had to take a good rest. The group of girls had been extremely tired during this period of training, but they were also a little excited. Now that they had calmed down, fatigue surged up and they quickly fell asleep. Li Lingtian had also calculated that although he had discovered countless precious medicinal herbs and obtained countless materials and inner cores from demonic beasts and sea beasts in the bottomless abyss, he had not obtained any true treasures. He knew that this bottomless abyss was definitely not so simple, so he had been looking for the location of that treasure. Otherwise, this bottomless abyss would be unworthy of its reputation. After thinking for a long time, he had already decided in his heart. After these few days passed, he would quickly advance and compete with those super experts. After all, many martial monarchs and martial supremes had been killed during this period of time. However, not many martial emperors had been killed. In fact, there was not even a trace of a martial saint. This was definitely not normal. This meant that those martial saints knew some secret and knew the location of the treasure. Therefore, they rushed in that direction without wasting any time. As for them, they had been training in the early stages and had already wasted time. Therefore, they had to speed up and kill some martial saints to avoid trouble. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.